Wow.
So then what he did...
This girl sounds awful. Just based on what you just told me, which is obviously not a full picture, but like, yeah, based on that sounds like some of the most scum behavior I've ever heard.
Which is weird. Which is why I asked him if he was happy on that stream, because it doesn't... I guess I can't imagine being happy in a world where I don't care about anyone else.
Yes, and the real dangerous people are the ones who only want the power.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Okay.
Gorilla mode! It just... I don't want to accuse them of botting, but it just doesn't make sense. 20,000 people are watching Sneako.
Actually, you are being examined.
Well, the nuke question, the reason we have nukes is because other people do.
No! Bring it back. Okay, I'm trying to become powerful. At the very least, so that I can protect myself.
I was just looking at the Cenat allegations, which are pretty crazy, and it seems like he got her back. It was pretty funny.
Whoa, okay. Do you want to give me a rundown, or is your chat already too aware?
Yeah, so the basic rundown is that this girl accused him of tricking, which I guess in this world basically means paying her for sex, and she claimed it was $5,000 to pay her for sex. He showed transaction history showing that he had only paid for her Uber. She then fired back and said, well, he used a different iCloud account, and also she leaked a picture of him sleeping with his dick out.
Wow.
So then what he did...
This girl sounds awful.
So what he did is he purchased domains under her name so that anytime you look up her name, it redirects to him shitting on her. Which is he bought like LaylaRed.com.
Holy shit! Kai Cenat is like a player then. Like he's fighting her. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
Whoa.
Oh no. He publicly shit on her. He called her a hoe, and then he purchased domains under her name to fuck with her, which is justified in my opinion.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Yeah. Like. Just based on what you just told me, which is obviously not a full picture, but like, yeah, based on that sounds like some of the most scum behavior I've ever heard. Like,
yeah,
I'm confused as well. Like she tried to expose him for paying for sex, but not that he like molested her or anything. Like, what was the allegation?
No. Just he paid her for sex. But I turn my camera on if you want to use that on Discord or whatever on your stream, but for continuity. Right. But anyway, yeah, basically that was it. And then at the end of it, she was like, and I know that you're like P. Diddy, who is under crazy allegations right now, as you know. And she's like, her justification was that he told other guys not to sleep with her, basically.
Right. Okay. And he was doing the right thing. Like, let's be clear. But yeah, fair enough. Okay. Damn. All right.
I have not looked into that website.
You're live right now?
Check that out. Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Sweet. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he did the right thing. Like, sounds like someone you should warn your friends about. But anyway,
yeah.
And so I'm confused. Yeah, so she literally was just trying to basically, like, you know,
she was trying to promote her OnlyFans, basically. Yeah.
But it's, again, the allegation isn't even like misconduct, right? It's literally
it's just that he paid for sex.
Yeah, it's her claiming that she was worth $5,000 to like a celebrity.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah, that's fucking scum as hell. Jesus Christ. Wow. Yeah. It's interesting. I was wondering, like, damn, Kai Cenat is mainstream as fuck. Like, he's like as high as you could probably get right now with like live streaming. Yeah, huge. Yeah, I was surprised that he kind of would take that angle, but it makes more sense now, understanding basically that that she literally was a complete bad actor. Like, there's no like, you know, it's not even like there's like allegations that need to be figured out in court. It's like she just literally tried to fuck him over.
Well, it seems like for this new generation of streamers, they're way less concerned with how people in the audience will perceive it, and if it's like the right thing or the wrong thing. They're way less like they're not PC at all. Like with Kai Cenat, Aisha Speed, even like Jinxie to an extent. Like they've all done kind of out of pocket shit. They don't seem to really care about like if people think they're like the best person ever. They just kind of care about making funny content, and that's it. Which I kind of like. I feel like they're not pandering to the Twitter mob. They're just willing to do what they think is right in the situation.
Yeah, no, well, bro, I mean, let's be real. Like, if someone tries to fuck over your empire, your business, and honestly, like, imagine if a dude did that, right? Like, imagine just for a second, like, the reverse situation.
Imagine if a dude leaked a picture of a female content creator.
Bro, it's like, that's, you should
he would be called like, he would be called like a sex pest.
Oh, beyond that, man, he'd be called a fucking straight up rapist. Like, even if it's not true, you know what I mean? Like, he would, but like, he would be a scum piece of shit, like, for real. Like,
oh yeah, yeah, just like her.
Yeah. That's interesting. Again, I'm assuming it is this kind of like just pure, like pretty clear situation, but like, yeah, man, that's
I mean, in fairness, I watched a Jamari video about it. Maybe it's being misrepresented, but my understanding is usually Jamari does pretty decent research and covers it all from all angles. So probably, you know, all the information I have with it seems pretty cut and dry. That's in a way, I don't know how to put it in a way that doesn't sound
kind of fucked up, but like it is kind of nice or refreshing to have a situation where it's like, man, like you can kind of justifiably say like, what the fuck, that person should not have like made that, you know, accusation or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like that's literally completely frivolous, like
completely malicious.
Yeah. Damn, bro. I feel for Kai Cenat, but I'm actually like, again, I would expect that his management would be like, shut the fuck up. But like, it's kind of respect that he's just like, no, fuck this person. You know what I mean? Like,
I think his management seems to be in line with his philosophy on nuking people when he wants to. Yeah. He's had a pretty interesting history with like, I don't know if you know anything about BruceDropEmOff, that guy.
I do a little bit. Yeah. He turned sour. I know that much, like toward Kai Cenat, right? Or like he's kind of gotten a bit like bitter or something like that. I know he's on Miskiff's stream a lot, but you can give me a little bit of lore.
Yeah, he had a very big ego, and he basically would shit talk all of his friends behind the scenes, like literally everyone, like even like Kai, the biggest guy in the fucking space, who gave a bunch of people their careers, like BruceDropEmOff and stuff like that. He basically said everybody sucks but him. That was one thing. He said that he had the idea for like a Japan trip first or something. It was like mad at people for going to Japan.
Oh my god,
that wasn't the case. So it's a total also, ego jealousy thing.
It's insane. It's like, dude, like who gives a fuck? Like half of content creators go to fucking Japan at some point in their careers.
It's just it's pure like ego and jealousy basically. Yeah, he's fallen off a lot. He used to be getting like insane, like, you know, not Kai level viewers, but, you know, top of Twitch viewers, and I think now he's having a hard time cracking a few thousand.
The only thing I remember BruceDropEmOff from was, and correct me if this is just a different guy, but like I think that Miskiff had like, it was a weird one-on-one scenario where he had like a lie detector going on, and BruceDropEmOff just asked him point blank if he said the M word, I think.
Yeah, I think that did happen. He told Miskiff to unalive himself on live stream too.
Right. Yeah, Miskiff gets a lot of shit. Oh my god. I don't even know what I like. He is like a community manager in a way. You know what I mean? Like he is someone who like puts people on.
Well, that's the thing. His entire life has been in the way that a lot of Twitch streamers are. It's a lot of like social climbing type stuff, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like basically, because I don't know if you know, he started as Ice Poseidon's cameraman.
Yeah. No, I know the Miskiff lore like a decent amount, and like Ice Poseidon leaked his fucking DMs because Ice Poseidon's kind of a scumbag piece of shit as well, which he owns. But yeah, he leaked the DMs.
Whatever,
yeah, and like whatever words. Yeah, basically.
Speaking of Ice, what do you think about that combo with him?
Actually, so okay, I liked it. That was fun as fuck. First of all, I'm glad that Ice Poseidon actually joined, because when I saw it, let's be clear, okay, Tom, when you asked me to come on to Kick or Keep, okay, you sent me the potential roster, and it was a bunch of people that were not that well known. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. And in my mind, I was like, okay, all right, you know, I have a chance. You know what I mean? And then this fucking morning, I checked the roster and I see Ice Poseidon, Action Man, and Vegan Gains, and I'm like, oh fuck. Oh, okay. So I gotta step it into fucking high gear. Unfortunately, I tripped. I fucking fell down the stairs before the thing started, so I wasn't like thinking fully straight. But long story short is that I was pleasantly surprised to see Ice Poseidon, because in my mind, I love the challenge and it's kind of funny. You know what I mean? But I knew for a fact that guy was gonna kind of free ride that competition. I don't know what actually happened, bro. Can you fill me in? Who the fuck won? Because I actually just passed out like immediately after.
Vegan Gains won. Basically, the conversation ended up panning over to ethics around gambling.
That's a big L for fucking Ice.
Ice made the case that children should be allowed to gamble because he gambled on RuneScape, and then he started. I assume it was kind of an ironic argument, but he said that children should be allowed to do fentanyl if their parents say it's okay.
Right.
Right. And obviously, Vegan Gains crushed him there. I thought Ice might have won just on the fact his arguments were so outrageous that like
that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Like Ice Poseidon's angle, and this is why I do approach these kind of tactically, right? Because it is, you say it and it's true. This is just gladiator fighting. Like it's just kind of for entertainment. It's not that serious, you know what I mean? And so like I'm thinking in my head, like how the fuck can I win? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I know that Ice Poseidon's a kind of a crackhead. He's definitely he's gonna try to have like the most outrageous takes. He's already kind of hateable. So I was like, I'm gonna fucking target Ice Poseidon so that hopefully I can rally support in antagonism to him. You know what I mean? The problem was fucking Vegan Gains, bro. Destiny's chat loves him. He is a legend. And oh man, I cozied up to Vegan Gains. Like I was thinking in my head, like that makes a lot of sense, because obviously if you make too many fucking enemies, if one of them wins the round, right, like you're gonna get juiced. But yeah, I befriended Vegan Gains, and then he saved my life. Like he didn't vote me out, but then he basically just gained too much popularity. I got nuked.
Vegan Gains is really fun to argue with, and he's fun to listen to because he's very passionate, and he does always bring it back to veganism somehow. That is the thing he's guilty of, but I think he's a very entertaining person on those shows. So it was good. What do you think about the conversation with Ice? Where thank you, Austin Tate, for the 5 gift memberships. Holy shit, fuck my ass. I found it very interesting and also not surprising that he said what he said about his basically view on life, which is, I think I described him as a sociopathic nihilist.
Nihilist, yeah. Which I think is accurate.
He seemed to agree with that.
Yeah. I think it was weird because I confused the statement. I said, I think nihilistic narcissist or whatever. He actually kind of got pissed when I said narcissist, but I like that segment. That's why I was leaning into him so much, because I was actually just kind of curious, you know what I mean? Like, because I wanted to see how consistent he was. That was the big thing, right? Like, people can say that. People can say that, like, oh, I don't care about anything. It's just about myself. But I wanted to see if that was authentically his philosophy. Yeah. And, like, through like, asking about the kids thing, you know what I mean? Because a lot of these kick streamers, they, like, front as if they don't give a fuck about anything. Right. But, like, through asking him about, you know, his kids, I kind of believe him. Like, I think he's consistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he actually doesn't really care about anything, which is weird. Which is why I asked him if he was happy on that stream, because it doesn't... I guess I can't imagine being happy in a world where I don't care about anyone else, you know?
Yeah, bro, like, let's be real. Like, that philosophy, it only leads one place, and it's your death. You know what I mean? Like, if you center your entire life around yourself, and this is why I refer to it as narcissism, that I don't talk about narcissism in a way where it's like, you have a fucking illness. It's more like it's an orientation of your life, where it's like you revolve your entire life around your desires, your immediate desires, your fucking maybe long-term desires. But at the end of the day, when it entirely revolves around your desires, when you die, it's just like a black hole.
Totally, like hedonistic desires too. Like he doesn't seem to really care about having anyone around him, which is like a normal desire people have, like to feel connection or something. For whatever reason, he has no desire for that, seemingly.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, okay, there's a difference between being a hedonist, I think, and being someone who like really wants power. Does this make sense? So like, okay, in my mind, people who desire power want something similar to hedonism, which is that they want what they want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so like a hedonist and someone who wants power, they both want to be able to do whatever they want, right? Yeah. And so, but someone with power, like they almost will always try like harder to gain, usually like more influence, more power, and they'll usually have a reason, like an actual something that they think it's like building toward, right? That they'll like, again, it's usually cope, but they'll use it to justify it. Whereas the interesting thing with Ice is that it might actually be more authentic, like hedonism, because he literally was admitting, like, I'm not building toward anything. Like, this is it.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, one person in chat pointed out something interesting, which is that Ice claims that he is a nihilist, but he also cries about his viewers hating him. He does do that. Another interesting thing is, have you seen the old Ice Poseidon crying stream where he's outside in like the middle of the night?
Maybe, but I don't remember.
It's basically a clip where he talks about, this is like when streaming was really kicking off for him IRL.
Right.
And he talks about the fact that he has no friends, he feels no connection to anyone, he hasn't even talked to his parents, and he's extremely lonely. And he's literally crying about it, saying he's like alone.
This is old, but yes, I remember. Like, this is very old, I think, but yeah.
I wonder if this is like a belief he's grown into, or if this is like a cope around the way he lives his life, because he, once again, is, like he said, willing to lie to someone for his own gain. Like, I really wonder to what extent his like mental process is coherent around this, or if he actually is like upset about this and has just like basically accepted this is his lifestyle to get where he wants to be.
Yeah, I think it's a cope usually. Like, again, he didn't give me good evidence for that, right? Because I was trying to like find the kind of inconsistencies or whatever. But I do think it is kind of a cope where it's like, if you just every relationship you have, this is why I asked him like how many relationships have people fucked you over in, right? And he, for some reason, he only said one, but it's like, okay, that's probably not true. But anyway.
Well, the question is, does he just fuck people over first?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and then he said a few, and it's like, okay, so if you're somebody who all your relationships are like toxic or fucking, they just end in like some confusing, annoying, like, you know, circumstance, will you just adopt like this mentality of I don't give a fuck, just as like a pure cope, like a protection against like, you know, the potential that people will subvert your love for them or whatever, you know what I mean?
I think to an extent, and I pointed this out, this is when I said the sociopathic narcissist thing or whatever, or sociopathic nihilist. I said that, and then he was like, Yep, that's me. And the reason I said it is because he was basically making the case that who should care about any of these subjects. I think he was projecting that onto other people, which makes me think maybe he just thinks that no one actually cares and is pretending, and that's basically his cope too. Like nobody actually cares about any issues, and like I mean, to an extent, I understand his perspective if it's like the fucking kick or keep debate show. Like some of these topics are like whatever, it's for entertainment, but there has to be something you fucking care about, whether it's like an issue or the people around you. And if you genuinely don't care about anything but your own gain, it just seems like a very unfulfilling like life.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is where I bring it back to like, because like, how do you put it exactly? But it's like, there's a lot of people who like crave power and like they understand like, okay, money equals power, whatever. But then there's people who like their logic is more like, I crave pleasure, and so I'm gonna get money so that I can get pleasure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And he does seem like a guy who he's not trying to be powerful, right? Like he's just a guy who is like just trying to like get little hits of like pleasure on a daily basis, if that makes sense. Like that's the vibe I'm getting. Like he obviously, like in terms of trust, like his community doesn't trust him, like they shouldn't. Like CX Coin, it's a situation where everyone's shitting on him from his own community. Like if he were to come out and say like I actually care, well then that's almost giving like, you know, more impetus for his people to fucking like, you know, fuck with him more. Does that make sense?
Because it's a contradiction.
Yeah, but it's not just that because it's a contradiction. It's like if Ice Poseidon, like over the years, there's been clear instances where Ice Poseidon gave a fuck, right? Like when he got banned from Twitch, he really was pissed off because it was basically that a chatter doxed him and like called in a bomb threat while he was on a plane, right?
Yes.
Like he's been fucked with in so many ways. Again, not even just with the relationships of the people he knows, that's happened too. But like his own audience has fucked with him in so many like irreparable ways where it's like, I mean, it makes sense. Why wouldn't you adopt a mindset where it's like, what the fuck ever? Like, as long as I got my own shit going on. I do think you're right. Like, it's a cope that was like learned or whatever.
It seems that way to me. Blungleborg said, when I was describing his life philosophy, the first thing that came to mind was libertarianism. Yeah, I mean, libertarianism, to my understanding, in very layman's terms, is just the idea that small government is better. The government shouldn't be involved in people's personal affairs generally, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that is the policy he adopts. But I don't think he's like I don't think he's an actual libertarian. I don't know if he's ever even voted. I think this is just what he thinks benefits his own life because he doesn't want the government involved in him making content off of crazy shit happening, right?
Yeah. It makes sense why like he would be against all that shit because it's like his content needs to be extreme. This is a big thing too, man. When people get banned, right? Because Ice Poseidon's he's had so many fucking like what would you say, like arcs or whatever.
Yeah.
And they've all been crazy to an extent, but there was a point where it was like getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And it's like, okay, the craziest that it eventually gets is like, so he gets banned from Twitch and that fucking sucks. And then he moves to YouTube and then he realizes like, yeah, YouTube isn't as like, you know, harsh with like these rules. So he starts doing like crazier and crazier shit. Eventually he also gets banned from fucking YouTube. And so now we're talking about a situation where the only real audience he has is people who have stuck around for all of the craziest shit, right? And they are now on an alternate platform where in order to get attention, you need to be doing crazy shit. So there is like a self-fulfilling cycle where it's like the guy fucking said that he had sex with his mom, right? Like in that stream. And obviously that's a joke, like whatever. But it is like he is at a point where he's not really going to give a fuck what he says because he knows that he kind of needs to like be outrageous to get fucking any kind of attention.
He's also made it out of any situation. Like, for example, do you know what happened to him in Thailand? You know why he got arrested?
Yeah. He well, the understanding I had was that he was like pretending to strip or something like that. He was like showing off skin or some shit like that.
Yeah, he was basically in a restaurant cross-dressing, and they saw that as very obscene, and they don't like that. And so that's what happened. And so, but in the end, he made it out. But there were these hilarious DMs from that time of him talking about how the prison is hell, and they make you shit in a bucket. And he said that if they were thinking about giving him 5 years, and he was like, if I'm here for 5 years, I'm killing myself. I'm not getting out.
Dude, that is actually a hilarious response. Imagine that. Wow. You're a foreigner. So like already as a foreigner, he has a little bit of leverage, like slightly. Man, yeah. Imagine this foreigner is just like, bro, if you keep me here, I'm going to kill myself. That is also consistent with like, you know, I wish I asked that actually. Like if you are undergoing like immense torture, I kind of asked this where it's like, would you die as a martyr? But I framed it as being a martyr. But if he's like going through the worst shit ever, he has like stomach cancer, would he like kill him? Yeah, I guess.
It seems like his life is only valuable to him if he's currently having fun.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine that IRL streaming would do that to a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Damn. Honestly, even when we talked to Sam Pepper, like he was saying this, and I kind of I get it. You know what I mean? When he was like IRL streaming's fucking tough. Like my entire life is like completely fucked up because of it. You know what I mean?
This is why I would never want to be a permanent IRL streamer. I can understand doing it for like a week at a time if you're on a fun trip, but it seems to complicate your life. And then once again, at that point, it's like nothing in your life is off limits for content. Every single thing is subject to the audience, and your relationships, your feelings, everything just becomes.
The second you show a girl, it's like there's weirdos messaging her. It's like insane. Yeah,
she gets doxxed immediately. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like enjoyable for anyone to be in his life long term. Bungaborg said I meant libertinism. What the fuck is libertinism? Do you know what this is, Gokanaru?
That just sounds like some fucking bullshit that's just like stemmed off of libertarianism. That's the same thing, but like some micro difference that doesn't matter. Something like that, probably.
Someone said, okay, Tom IRL. Okay, Tom IRL is fucking videos, and I'm not streaming my entire life because I have some semblance of sanity, okay? I'd like to maintain the little sanity I have left. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with IRL streaming, and I want to bring it back to power because I do think this is like an interesting thing to kind of talk about. But like, an IRL streamer, like they really have to let go of a lot, right? Like they don't actually have that much power or like control. We'll use the word control, but like that's kind of how I view power. They don't have that much control over what happens, right? And sometimes they even welcome the chaos. But like, you've seen it even with Ice Poseidon, like he gets publicly like fucking pepper sprayed. You know what I mean? That's something that like he exposes himself in a way where he can kind of get castrated or like have his power like taken away for a bit because the audience can literally fuck with him. You know what I mean? And so I do think that like when we're streaming at our fucking desktop, and people do try to strip power away from content creators by literally, you know, calling the police and like getting like, you know what I mean? Like that is kind of a confrontation with power. Like what does a doxer, or sorry, what does a swatter get out of that, right? No gain. They just get a sense of feeling like they have power over that fucking streamer, right? Mm-hmm. And that is what they like. That's a high that they get out of it. It's control. And so like in the case of us, right? Like that we have a lot more control over like managing our audience, managing what the fuck is going on, what they see, all this shit. Whereas an IRL streamer like basically give up a ton of power and for basically a lot of attention, right? Because like weird shit can happen. I think the problem with that though is like whether or not you're an IRL streamer, the more online you are, the more that barrier breaks down. I mean, like with Kai Cenat, right? I mean, he had a perfectly consensual sexual interaction with a woman, and because of who he was, it was then made public, right? Like if he was just some random guy and it was made public, who the fuck would ever care, right? Who the fuck would even think about this? But the problem is like because of the position he's in, he's seen as fair game by a person like this to exploit. He's unpersoned. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely that's a real thing for sure. Yeah, fuck. I don't know with Kai. Like Kai does have a lot of. It is weird because what that woman also kind of did. She was trying to, in a way, like again, I think that you were right with the OnlyFans angle, where it's like, okay, she viewed it as marketing, so she could like get something financially out of it, right? But I don't know the context of the woman, but she might already even have money, right? Like she might not actually need the fucking money. So there's like two desires that I can imagine from her. And it's like, does she want influence or does she want power, right? Influence and power are two different things, if in my mind, at least. Like power is like you want control, right? Like you want to be able to impact someone's life or,
like someone's life directly.
Yeah. Usually in my mind, like you want basically just what you desire. You want to like impose like something to happen to somebody. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of control an aspect. It's possible she tried to blackmail Kai before this, right? Like we don't really know, but I imagine it's possible that she did, But if she just wants influence is different because influence is more like getting attention, right? Like you want more people to be like,
it's just like look at me.
Yeah, exactly. Look at me. So like again,
because the guy who swatted him, he didn't want influence. He just wanted to control him in that moment.
Exactly.
But someone like Swatistic, who is a guy who Keemstar got to confess to swatting people on his show and then went to jail. He wanted both because he wanted the control from the swatting and then the influence of being known.
Yes, and the real dangerous people are the ones who only want the power because the influence thing, like criminals especially, any criminal who wants influence, like those are the ones that are going to get caught. Like Luca Magnotta, I don't know if you remember, but like that guy wanted to get caught. Yeah, that guy wanted to get caught. Elliot Rodger obviously also want
some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, but like they wanted to feel like validated through other people. Does that make sense? They don't want, it's not just that they want what they want. It's like they want other people to identify with it, to like pay attention to them. Whereas someone who just wants power, like they literally just get off to, I fucking influenced this guy's life. I fucked up this guy's life. So like there's, with the woman, yeah, it's probably an influence thing, but it might be a power thing too. It's like, yeah, this fucking powerful guy, I literally showed his cock or whatever the context is. Like that is like fucked up. And she did, you know, expose like his weakness or whatever, you know what I mean? Like she kind of fucked with his head for sure, right? Like anyway, I don't know. These, when it comes to like the craziest online personalities, it's really it really is interesting. I wish that like there were psychiatrists that could like kind of try and understand what the fuck is going on, because like I'm just obviously an idiot, a random.
We need Dr. K.
Yeah, actually that was an interesting conversation that happened, shitting on Dr. K. What was your vibe throughout that? Because Destiny was kind of on my side in that, where it's like we're shitting on Dr. K. Like this is one of the only guys who kind of is, you know, qualified or whatever, right? Or is qualified. What were you thinking during that?
Sorry, people in my chat are saying that Zay said that Ice is an accelerationist. Dude, I don't think that Ice Poseidon is thinking that hard about politics. Anyway, as far as the Dr. K question, I don't know. I've never been to therapy. I know people who have benefited from therapy. I feel kind of underqualified to talk about that idea in general.
Yeah, fair.
And then beyond that, it's like, I don't know. I feel like I've probably gotten some benefit out of watching his interviews with people like Dante's and understanding their thought process, and then like taking the positive concepts into my own life. So I feel like I've directly received some benefit. I'm sure there are negative side effects. I'm sure whatever this Ayurvedic Indian witch doctor shit that he's pushing, I'm sure that is completely retarded, and I wouldn't blame anyone for criticizing him for pushing that. But beyond that, I don't know. It's really hard for me to like completely shit on him when it feels like there's not a lot of people tackling these issues in any kind of constructive way.
Yeah, that's the big thing with Dr. K, is I'm trying to like, and I've done this little appraisal. I haven't gone deep, okay? But I've done the little appraisal and I've tried to like suss out his vibe, because it is like people should be paying attention when someone is claiming to be a professional, you know what I mean? And like that makes sense. Like I'm not against him getting criticized, whatever. But like Vegan Gains was making claims about his intent, right? And he was saying his intent is that he's a grifter. It is completely cynical. He is giving people bad advice.
I don't think it is a grift. I mean, and this is just from getting a read on Dr. K. I don't think it's a grift. I don't think it's completely cynical, but I think it's possible he's doing stuff that's worth criticizing, undoubtedly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so like when I hear like Vegan Gains is an interesting guy, because he is so fucking like you said passionate. Yes, that's the word I'd probably use, but he's like so vehement about his beliefs. You know what I mean? They're like, and it, yeah, I'm not convinced that they hold up most of the time, at least when I'm interacting with him. But when you're like in a debate context, that does, like, people identify with that. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, this guy gives a fuck, clearly. And he probably did do some research and whatever.
I appreciate his conviction, whatever the case. I just appreciate the fact that somebody's willing to stake out positions that are strong towards public figures. Because I feel like one thing that a lot of people, you know, like maybe me or you would say is like, well, I don't know enough about this issue. Vegan Gains has a fucking opinion on every issue, is willing to stake it out to the death. And even if he's like wrong, he'll try to defend it. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that somebody is willing to do it.
This is the disconnect, where it's like there is a real wisdom in knowing that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, you know what I mean? And the thing is that you like are taken seriously as a commentator, right? And so it makes more sense that you would be like a little bit cautious about having an unironic position. You know what I mean? Right. So like I respect that. It's not that you're a pussy. I don't think that at all. Like I'm a very similarly minded, where it's like if I'm being deadly serious, like I want to actually think it through. But yeah, in the case of like this blood sports, that works really fucking well, and I respect it. Again, I was dogging on that Kelly girl, or maybe it was Malik.
Kelly Jean is the British one.
So I don't even, it's funny, I don't even remember the voices, but I couldn't see their faces at all, so I don't really have any context.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, but
Kelly's the one who was pissed off the entire time about the questions.
Okay, so yeah, Kelly. Yeah, that's the big thing where, okay, so the second, I was like, because I understood the meta level of this whole thing, which is that this is entertainment, right? Like, so that's why when she was interjecting, like, what the fuck are these topics? Why are we talking about this? It's like, in my mind, it's like, okay, you're not, like, shut the fuck up about that. Just talk about the interesting thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, a guy like Vegan Gains saying that he is going to kill people who eat fucking meat, right? Like, he basically said that, right? He said...
he said that many times before, that he would do that, yeah.
Yeah, and same with Ice Poseidon. Like Ice Poseidon, I think threatened my life in like an early stage in the thing. He literally did, and I kind of like let it slide because he probably could fuck with my life. And realistically, though,
you think
when
he could?
says,
I don't know if he could.
I don't really care. Like at the end of the day, I don't think he could either. But like, I'm not trying to like egg it on. You know what I mean? Because that is, in a way, that was a weird move because it's like, okay, now we're not just playing a game. You know what I mean? But anyway, the point is though, is that when he did that, I was like, okay, that's like content, like to him. You know what I mean? Like it's a shocking thing. It's a shocking thing. It's like a funny thing he can say. And so like in Ice Poseidon's brain, like yes, like the only thing that he can contribute because he's not really a thinker at all is that basically he was just sexually harassing the woman for like the entire time.
Yeah. Blungelborg said libertinism is the rejection of morality in terms of human desire, specifically for hedonistic extent. The founder of the philosophy is the same man the word sadism comes from. Okay, well, I mean, that seems
interesting.
That definitely seems like he seems like a libertine person, if that's the case.
I wonder if there's crossover with Satanism. I've been someone told me recently that Satanism is just kind of like believing that you are your own god, if that makes sense. Like you are the one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's like the etymology of words, I'm sure, all comes from similar people way back when, right? These concepts being explored. I mean, Satanism is an interesting one. Who made an interesting video about this is actually Bedhead Bernie, of all people. He made an interesting video where he just talked about the history of the satanic movement and the idea that basically like Satanism, obviously, like it has Satan in the name, but for a lot of people who actually believe it, the Satan part is basically an aesthetic and they don't actually worship the devil. They basically just use it to like encompass a set of beliefs that, yeah, I mean, come down to the idea that you are kind of your own god, right?
I believe it's like self-worship or some shit like that. Yeah. I'm not educated, but like, yeah, in my mind, I get why people would, and again, there are Satanists, I guess, but if we're gonna not make it about really morality, right? If we're just gonna kind of think about like what will end with you having the most fucking fulfilled or like, you know, desirable life, it's like, yeah, bro, like complete fixation on yourself. Like that shit is literally in every way that is like a vortex. That's like a fucking black hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're taking and you're not giving anything else. That's what a black hole is, right? Like
yeah. Femboy Jock said, sorry, he just said Ice isn't intellectual, he's just selfish. Yeah, that's obviously true. Obviously.
Yeah, but it's like that usually like that kind of a thinking kind of like at least online with like people you can see online, like that does usually just end with them just being drug addicts and dying. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
the thing about Ice though is he doesn't seem too stupid to understand what he's doing. Like it's not like like he's not like a super smart person, but he's not a dumb person either. It's like a conscious choice he's made to reject morality in terms of his and for his own benefit, basically.
I completely agree. I think Ice Poseidon has a lot of let's just say like he's really he's clever in like really dumb ways, if that makes any sense. Like,
I mean, look at how much he succeeded.
Yeah, exactly. Like the story of Ice Poseidon was amazing because it was the first example to me. Like nowadays with Kick, people experience this every day where it's like, oh yeah, Jack Doherty is being a fucking idiot, or like Neon's being an idiot. But like back in the day, I remember thinking the exact same thing about Ice Poseidon. The difference was like Ice Poseidon continued to grow. You know what I mean? Like he continued, he really had like 3 years of upward growth.
Wasn't he like the most popular guy on Twitch for a bit?
I'm pretty sure, man. I'm pretty confident. Like at the very least, he was the most talked about. That's for fucking sure. I mean, I guess Kick streamers are talked about a lot, but like you tell me if I'm wrong, but like at this point, are most of these Kick streamers that get talked about just kind of like falling off, like in a views way, if that makes sense?
I don't think most of them get that many consistent views. Their streams basically exist I mean, Ice is an exception. Their streams basically exist to get clipped on Twitter, and then they make money from other ways. Like Jack Doherty, he doesn't make money from streams. He doesn't make money from his YouTube videos. He makes money from the OnlyFans girls that he signs, right?
Yeah.
And it's all kind of this greater scheme. For Aiden Ross, I don't think he makes that much money in donos, to be honest. And I know he's openly admitted to like botting his views and stuff on Kick. So yeah, when you see that 70,000 live viewer counter on Kick, I wonder if that's actually even like 10,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, in the case of Sneako, I have like circumstantial evidence. Obviously, I don't have like any concrete, but like, let's just put it like this: like in your stream with like 1,000 viewers, I remember on the game show that we hosted, the Commentary Community War, you got like 300 votes with like, you know, like 800 people watching or something like that.
Yeah.
I participated in one of Sneako's contests like before, obviously all this shit. That's why he trusted me kind of. And so he had apparently 7,000 people watching, and just under 200 votes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in this contest or whatever. So like I do think the view botting thing is real because they want to make it look like it's less, like it's more relevant than it is. But you're right. You're completely right that they monetize in other ways, because in the case of Sneako, yes, it's true. He doesn't like support OnlyFans. Obviously, sometimes he'll collab with fucking OnlyFans people because that's clout and shit. But he promotes like his course, right? Like that's like his fucking avenue.
Do you think he makes a lot of money from that to this day?
Fuck no. I could go on about
off rip. He like, probably did though, right?
Off rip, yeah. Like the first time he did it, and the funny thing is that it's so weird with Sneako. The first time he did his course, which is the creativity kit, I covered it in the Sneako video. That was when he was the most popular, by the way. Like he was popping the fuck off. All of his clips were getting, massively clipped. All this shit. The point is though, is
when he was on YouTube still.
Yeah, when he was still on YouTube. Anyway, okay. he got a bag from that for sure. Like at least probably like 200 to 400K. He kind of flexed this shit. Like he was really into that wave. Because again with Tristan Tate, the whole thing was that Tristan Tate told him, if you make $1 million, we'll host you a party. Okay, right. And Sneako claimed that he made $1 million. Probably half from the kit, probably half from AdSense. I don't know where the money came from, whatever. I don't know if it's real. But the point is, though, is that his second attempt is, I think, called Active Income right now. And I have no problem saying it, because if you go on the Active Income website right now, Tom, and you take a look at it, it's like an extremely different vibe than what Sneako initially did, which was like, I'm a crazy crackhead. Oh, you want to make money online, little kid? Now he's doing this weird kind of take where it's like, making money is hard work. And you need to have a lot of focus. You need to be humble. And it's funny because he's right. So now he's actually like kind of right, but he's advertising it in like a horrible way, right? Like no kid that watches him is going to sign up thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to make active income that I have to work for nonstop. You know what I mean? Like he attracted these people who are like so immediacy based that I think that his course has probably just fallen the fuck off. Like there's a big, there was like a guy who kind of semi-exposed. He didn't provide receipts, but he worked with some of the guys who were behind Sneako's newest course. And he announced basically that it was like a massive failure. They only got like 40 signups within the first week, when in the first week you're supposed to get like a massive amount. Like
4,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's funny in my mind, because the big problem with Sneako's course, and feel free to fucking interrupt me if I'm just like rambling, but
no, go.
Yeah. The big problem is that, again, the first time it was just like immediacy. Like you want to make money online, make money fast as fuck. You know what I mean?
Drop
like,
shipping.
Yeah, exactly. But like we're talking about advertising right now, because to make, whether someone buys your course or doesn't, it totally comes down to advertising. Whereas now his approach is more honest, in the sense that it's like making money is hard work. You've got to like double down. You've got to develop these skills, right?
So are you saying he realized people are going to catch on to the fact a lot of it was bullshit, so he changed the direction of it to make it more appealing and like real?
Yes. And it's funny because when he like kind of in a way got more principled about it, or like was actually trying to build something more impressive, that he forgot about the core component, which is the marketing. And so like, yeah, like how is Sneako marketing his course, right? Like what? Like it's his marketing has been horrible. Like I'm going to be honest, like as somebody who kind of understands marketing a little bit, I'm not the best marketer, but I can tell when it's like really bad. And like, yeah, I mean, again, if you go on the website, it's like him looking honestly kind of depressed as fuck, like talking like seriously. And it's like, okay, when people, even his viewers, think about Sneako, they don't think about like serious guy that I take seriously. They think of like juicer type, like crackhead dude who's going to say outrageous shit. But yeah, the big thing with course, go on.
Well, my question for you is, you've seen a decent amount of recent Sneako streams, I assume, right?
Actually, not really, but go on. Sorry. Like,
well, I guess my question would be, I remember back in the day when he was blowing up, he would talk about money a lot. Like he would talk about the money he was making. He would specifically say, "Oh, I'm making $100,000 this month in YouTube, making $200,000 a month this month in YouTube or whatever." He said when he got banned, I think they pocketed like 200 from him or something like that.
Right.
Does he talk about how much money he's making now?
So that's funny. Well, okay. In the
context, you can probably see where I'm going with this.
Yeah. In the context of like a guy like me shitting on him, yes, he will bring up the fact that basically I'm a brokey. You know what I mean?
But he won't name numbers, will he?
No. Like, there's been a podcast where people asked him to name numbers. I think he named like 800K or something like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that with Sneako, it's like such a situation where he won't right now. He won't talk about how much money he is making. He'll talk about how much money he is not making because he didn't compromise his principles. Okay, so he'll constantly refer to, I declined $25 million from Kick. You know what I mean? So that I wouldn't promote gambling because I'm a principled guy.
I do not believe they offered him 25 mil. I'm sorry.
No, that's like, and if if any of the paperwork said 25 million, it probably just meant like gambling money that's not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. It would have meant, because the way that Kick and Stake do their sponsorships, and I actually know this because I've been researching a guy named Bossman Jack, who's my favorite gambler of all time. The way they do it is they say, okay, here's your 10 grand a month to gamble on Stake. Okay. Or sorry, 10 grand a week sometimes. It'll be 10 grand a week. But out of that weekly paycheck, you get to keep up to 3. And the rest you need to gamble on stream, and that's basically the way that it will work, is my understanding. And so it's not like when XQC gets offered $100 million, it's not like he's actually being given $100 million, because they know XQC has never made $100 million in a year from Twitch. He's never generated $100 million in 1 year on Twitch. He's obviously made like a lot of money. Like I wouldn't doubt that he's made, $1 million a month, maybe even 2, but 100 in a year is crazy. What they're doing is they're saying, hey, here's money, gamble on our fucking website. And that's the way that Kick actually makes money. The way that Kick, the entire impetus behind Kick and Ed Craven starting that business was because you couldn't gamble on Twitch anymore, so they needed their own platform, and that's why it came to be.
Yeah, that's facts, and it's interesting that you're bringing it to that point. It's really, really genuine. I love these conversations. This is great. But the thing with like Kick is that they understand the role of a content creator is literally just advertising. That's what influence is. Influence is to fill the space between a fucking ad. Yeah. Yes. Influence to someone who wants power, right? Like Kick is interesting because they actually do want power, right? Companies in general want power, and they understand that how do you get power? You make money and you make it in a sustainable way where it's like, okay, we're going to make a lot of money over time and hopefully it'll grow. Like we'll get more powerful over time. That's kind of the whole idea of like stocks. Like you want to be investing in powerful companies that will maintain weather storms, all this shit. The point is though, is that business negotiations are power games. They're like one of the most pure examples of power games that like exist in our society, because there's a fuck ton of power games that occur that we don't really like consciously acknowledge. But like with business, when people say it's just business, that's what they're saying is that this is just the game, the laws of power, right? So like if Rumble, right? Like think about Sneako's leverage, okay? He immediately, in a way, got unlucky because he immediately followed Andrew Tate to Rumble. And I believe that Kick didn't even exist. So Sneako instantly reinvests all of the fucking audience who would have continued watching him directly into Rumble, okay? And what ends up happening is that Rumble doesn't pop off as hard as Kick. Rumble is way more low key. And it gets to the point where Sneako is the biggest creator on Rumble. That's true, right? But he's the biggest creator on Rumble and he's getting, what is it, like 10, 20K viewers, maybe some of his IRL streams.
Dude, I'm going to be honest, like, I don't know. I guess maybe I just can't fucking fathom that he's actually still getting that many viewers when he's not on YouTube, but it just... I don't want to accuse him of botting, but it just doesn't make sense. 20,000 people are watching Sneako. Where the fuck are these people? Like, I feel like when you hear about a streamer with 10, 20,000 viewers, you see their fans, right? You see people defending them on Twitter. You see them like this fucking ferocious community, because that's part of streaming, is having this like crazy fucking active community who's like loyal to you to the fucking death and will do, kill, rape, and die for you. Where are these people for Sneako? Where are they? Yeah, so here's the thing. Sneako is an interesting guy, and this is a kind of philosophy I've adopted where it's like, Sneako is... he is not like as conscious, I think, as like he presents himself. Obviously, people can understand. What do you mean by conscious? I mean that when the contest happened, where I said that he had apparently like 7K people watching, but only 200 voted, Sneako himself was like, "What the fuck? Why aren't you guys voting?" You know what I mean? Like he was confused about that, right? So you think like, if there is botting, he's not in on it, maybe? Yeah, I think that's possible, right? Like, and first of all, let's be clear. I do think there's botting going on Rumble, right? It's just that it's possible that Sneako isn't the one botting. You know what I mean? Because keep in mind, Sneako needs, once he becomes like the main guy on Rumble, which it's kind of true that he is, the guys who are running Rumble literally are talking to him. They like kind of understand. And basically they need to make it look like their number one guy is actually like a contender with the number one guy on Kick. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think in my opinion, Rumble's going to go under, and probably pretty soon. I don't know what, like, that's the big thing. I don't know their angle, right? With Kick, the angle is obvious. They're funneling kids to fucking promote gambling. Makes perfect sense. With Rumble, it is weird because it is a political platform, right? And like,
are they getting money? It must be from like political parties, but what party is going to support Rumble? Not any of the established mainstream ones. You know what I mean?
I think. Do you think it's possible that the people who run it have just duped angel investors into basically donating to the platform and like thinking like, oh, it's gonna blow up, you know?
Oh, bro, I think that realistically they probably duped a fuck ton of crypto and just libertarian guys in general. You know what I mean? Somehow, I don't know how these guys fall for this shit, but sometimes they're really stupid.
I think part of the problem. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Part of the problem these sites fall into is kind of the same problem that a lot of sites like DLive or Cozy TV had in the past, where basically for somewhere like DLive, PewDiePie was like the biggest person there. He streamed like, I don't know, not that fucking often. He had like a big contract with them. So they try to get him. Doesn't really work out. So naturally, who gravitates to alt tech that's not willing to ban them? It's Fuentes, right? And generally speaking, if Fuentes is the only person on the site, other streamers aren't going to want to go there. And why fucking would they when if they're not nearly as edgy, there's no reason to not be on Twitch or even YouTube. Like fucking Destiny's pretty fucking edgy, right? I've seen him say crazy stuff. I mean, he told Nick is not green, he should unalive himself.
Yeah.
He's on YouTube.
Spitting.
He's on YouTube. He's fine. So why the fuck would you go to these websites when seemingly the only tenable position to be there is that you're not allowed in the other ones?
Okay, so I'll give you you're right. First of all, like there's like from a random content creator perspective, there's no reason to join Rumble unless you align politically, okay, like with a Fuentes or whatever, because this is true. Like
well, because then you know you're going to be banned if you're on YouTube. So why even try?
No, but you're right, and this is true, and this is what like when Sneako says this, he's not wrong. Like if you are providing a liberal perspective, that does align with YouTube's kind of principles, or at least the higher ups. Like the liberal perspective, truly does like get enforced, right? Now, let's be clear. If you're conservative, if you're Ben Shapiro, like Ben Shapiro's not a liberal, but he absolutely can still be on YouTube. Like YouTube is just they're just trying to oust like these extremists, if that makes sense. You know
but it depends on what you do. So, for example, I think I heard something about YouTube directly telling Matt Walsh you need to stop misgendering people on the platform.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that,
which is pretty interesting. That's a position they've staked out, because 5 years ago they wouldn't have staked that out. 5 years ago,
here's the thing,
they would have just been like whatever.
But do you know what the difference is with Matt Walsh? In my opinion, so the difference is that the Daily Wire is actually like a verified kind of like they have so many YouTube contacts that all of their creators are trusted creators. Not
so that's why they tell them instead of just banning.
Exactly.
Them, right?
It's like basically if Matt Walsh continued misgendering people, it's not that he would get deleted. That would not happen. Okay, it'd be a very simple situation where he just wouldn't get favored in the fucking algorithm when someone looks up transgenderism. Does that make sense? Like this is a real thing because the Daily Wire is an institution, and institutions are really powerful. Like YouTube understands this. That's why YouTube treats them better than us fucking plebeians. Institutions have real power. They can actually kind of, cause fucking problems potentially for YouTube legislatively. And so they usually
could the Daily Wire cause problems legislatively?
Well, I mean, the big thing that needs to be understood is that the Daily Wire is not a massive institution, but they
have like 100 employees.
Yeah, but it has the potential to become a massive institution. So if basically YouTube just straight up bans the Daily Wire, well, that is a massive potential client that they're just completely fucking like ousting. And the thing is that as long as Daily Wire is willing to play ball, as long as Matt Walsh does just fucking do what they say, then YouTube will be fine with them kind of just, again, they can give whatever opinion they want. They just can't be too offensive about it. They can't draw too much attention toward themselves doing it. Does that make sense? Like Sneako's problem wasn't that he was saying what he was saying.
I guess the natural conclusion is like, do you think that this is a real power Daily Wire has, or is it a veneer that they put up because they are an institution and they look mainstream?
No, you're right. Like, dude, power is very, especially in the online sphere, power
it's about aesthetic.
It's a veil. Right? Yeah, it's totally aesthetic. It's totally a veil. Yeah, but like what's real and what is absolutely you can't deny is that the Daily Wire fucking crushes it on YouTube. Okay, like they do crush it as creators or whatever. You know what I mean? Like especially again with Brett Cooper. I don't know what happened with Brett Cooper, but it's possible. You telling me that about Matt Walsh, I didn't even know that. But Brett Cooper had when she jumped out of the gate, she was totally like on the anti-trans shit. Again, she's gonna be more milquetoast because they understand cute girl. She can't be too offensive, but she was like controversial. You know what I mean? She was saying all this shit. Now she's doing fucking celebrity gossip, and it's possible that maybe YouTube did say like, okay, could you relax a bit or whatever with the like trans stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The thing is that YouTube is willing to play ball with people who will play ball, right? Like they are not trying because again, if they full on ban the Daily Wire,
they don't want to ban anyone unless they have to. Yeah.
It'll be a massive media storm. It's not unless they have to. It's what do they have to gain versus lose? Again, that's why I say it's a power game. Like when people talk about the morals of like the rules, it's like the rules don't fucking matter if you threaten their power. Does that make sense? Like they will do anything to fucking delete you. They don't care unless if you threaten their power. A guy like Monkey Jones, he was threatening to their power because
that was my next question. How the fuck does he fit in this picture? You know?
No, yeah, it makes perfect sense though, right? Because Monkey has no real power, but his influence can threaten YouTube because if basically it was the big scare, right? Was that and obviously you covered the conspiracy, but the big scare was basically if there's ads running on guys who are like even pretending to like buy into school shooters, you know, ideals, well then that can cause an adpocalypse. And so suddenly this guy, this random idiot Monkey, if fucking Nick Cruz kills 17 people, and then Monkey is basically like in his search history, right? Like Monkey is like a creator that was there. Well, that's a massive shitstorm for fucking YouTube. Advertisers pull out. Of course, advertisers don't actually give a fuck. That's also a power game. Advertisers, that's like an advertiser strike, they are trying to gain more leverage over YouTube. They just need an excuse to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But anyway.
So you think your opinion is they banned him for fear of some kind of apocalypse type thing?
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's also because if they did ban him, there was no real downside. Does that make sense? There was no real backlash that would happen because Monkey himself doesn't have power, but he's a threat due to his influence.
They don't stand to lose anything from getting rid of him, really.
Exactly. And so what ended up happening when he got fucking axed, like literally like callously axed, was some YouTubers talked about it. PewDiePie talked about it. At the end of the day, after a week or two, nobody gave a fuck. Monkey spirals. He's a fuck up. Who cares? And yeah, us even talking about Monkey Jones, like we're weirdos. Nobody gives a fuck.
And now he's allowed back on YouTube, but he hasn't done any of that content, right?
Exactly. He learned the lesson, right? Like he basically, and again, this is why when we're talking about businesses, it's so different than when you're talking about people, because people, they have psychology, and love is like a real thing. Like I don't know how like fucking weird this sounds, but like love is a weird thing where it's like people can act against their interest. You know what I mean? In like a weird way a lot of times. Whereas with a business, and there are bad businesses, let's be clear, but like at these high level businesses, it's literally just power games. You know what I mean? Like it really is truly power games, like at an authentic level. So like, again, Daily Wire is willing to play ball, okay? A guy like Sneako, he's coming in, he's saying all this shit, he's literally loud as fuck, he's drawing so much attention, so much. Ball. He did not play ball at all. He was actually so weird, but he was consciously and actively saying, while he was on YouTube, he was saying, guys, I'm probably going to get banned, you know, join Rumble. So already, YouTube instantly...
I think the problem for him is, like, if he were to play ball, then there's nothing. Like, he was all edge, and, like, the point that there was kind of just shallow.
No, you're right. Like, and that's why Sneako didn't tone it back. You know what I mean? But now, let's be clear. Now Sneako's on Rumble, and Sneako doesn't have very much leverage. Okay, this is the fact of the matter. Because if Sneako joins Kick, he'll get a ton of shit because he's a Muslim, right? And he's trying to be principled now. He's trying to like double down on like he actually believes this stuff. And fair enough. I honestly think he's sincere. But the big thing is if basically he's going to be on Rumble no matter what, more or less, he doesn't have that much leverage, right? And so the second that Rumble themselves warn Sneako, like, bro, chill out, he will follow their rules.
Well, here's the question. What if Sneako came back to YouTube and he started a fucking gaming channel? Do you think he would get banned?
Yeah, because he'd be trying to funnel people to Rumble. Like
let's say he wasn't trying to funnel people to Rumble. Let's say in some weird world he started a gaming channel. Do you think he might be fine?
Yeah, I think it's possible. The problem with Sneako though is that he really is blackballed in like a really different way than most people. Like
because the media coverage,
the media coverage is a real thing, man. Like the media, again, the media has a weird kind of power because they do have power, but the power is based on their leverage with influencing. Like, you know what I mean? Like getting other people mad. Like the media is a veil. Like realistically, if an article happens and everybody just ignored it, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Weirdly though, Sneako's still able to get attention from like big people like Sean Strickland. Is it because of this like Rumble Sports contract? Is that why he gets this? Yeah.
But it's also the added fact of like Sneako's a smart guy socially, so like he understands like these fighters. The way you get respect with these fighters is not fucking like, you know, being respectful. No, that's not how it works. Kicked in, yeah. It's exactly. It's literally going through the trials and tribulations. It's kind of like, yeah, kind of like what we did with Kick or Keep. It's like, is that woman who was insisting about the rules, is she going to get respected because she's like actually trying to make this go coherently? It's like, no, you're going to get respected if you're the loudest fucking voice talking, if that makes sense.
That's what I experienced. Like the first time I went on the show, I think I had the best approach I've ever had to being on a show like that, because I wasn't even trying to argue any particular position. I was just trying to stake out a position and be the loudest, most annoying person possible.
Yeah, I remember that, actually. I remember that. And you actually got a lot of comments saying that. But in reality, like, you had attention on you, right? Like, you actually were.
I knew that that's, or at least I had a theory that that's what needed to happen to kind of win that game. And I mean, I think I kind of proved myself.
Yeah, no, bro, your performances, let's be clear, like, you went up against Mudahar, I think, in one of your first performances. Like, that's serious that you actually won that. You know what I mean? Like, I do view this, again, people are too quick to write this shit off, I think. Like it does kind of mean something. Like, it is a game, right? Like, this is actually a contest. It's just a rigged contest. But you can, like, maximize, again, like, the way that it goes. You know what I mean? So I do take these, like, kind of seriously.
Right.
Yeah, anyway. But yeah, no, like these power games with Sneako, again, it's like this guy, he really doesn't have that much leverage. And what needs to be understood is that Nick Fuentes almost kind of got a scare where he almost got deleted from Rumble. Okay. Basically okay, when you're playing power games, the big thing that you need to be careful for is the government, because the government can fuck you in almost every single way. Okay. And this isn't me feeding into libertarian ideology. It's just a fact, right? Like, again, with the police have a monopoly on violence. This is literally how it works. Like, you can't fight a cop. Does that make sense? If you fight a cop, you'll die, right? So in that context, what happens on Rumble when Nick Fuentes has literally hosts a white nationalist rally and says they're all gonna die? You know what I mean? Like, obviously we know what he's talking about. The FBI calls the CEO or whatever of Rumble, and he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? And then the CEO of Rumble talks to Sneako, and he's like, Sneako, why the fuck were you there?
So you think that happened?
No, that did happen. That's actually what Sneako said. No. Yeah, Nick Fuentes got suspended for a little bit on Rumble, and Sneako literally said, like, you guys realize, like, the FBI watches some of these, right? Like, and that's true. They do, because like, let's be real, like, it comes like a different level when Fuentes is alone and he's just kind of like talking and he's kind of, you know, going on a coherent rant, and then you see a guy who's like on stage saying we're gonna kill them all, and it's like a massive cheering. You know what I mean? Like,
because his typical streams aren't being covered by Right Wing Watch, but when when it's like capital related stuff, or it's like an IRL rally with people, then it's like, oh, it's Charlottesville too. People basically see it as. Now, one thing somebody pointed out in chat, SP pointed out, that basically Jinxie put on Sneako to his podcast, and I have a theory with that. Okay,
that's interesting. Yeah,
my impression of that podcast was that Jinxie was being a bit disingenuous with his intention of having him on. I think the reason he had him on is because he's starting on a podcast. He just had Moist Critical on. He wanted to have the most controversial figure he could possibly have. From the stream or the podcast, there's this part when he says something to the effect of he like said, there's obviously stuff I disagree with you on, and the Sneako was like, well, what do you disagree on? And Jinxie kind of fumbled his words. He didn't seem like he had very much to say. And my theory on why he didn't have much to say is he basically doesn't fucking watch him or know a lot about him, apart from the fact that he's controversial. He decided to just pick him out of a hat and have him on. That's basically it, because he knew it would get some level of views, because it's like, oh, Sneako, controversial guy. I've just done a bunch of well-liked guys like Queso. He did Sketch and fucking whoever else, people like that after at Queso. Like, so it makes sense to have a controversial guy on, even if, like, I don't think he fucking knew almost anything about him.
Yeah. And this is, he kind of knew a little bit, like, he knew the surface level shit. And when I say surface level, I mean,
he knew like what fucking the average, he knew what like my brother knows about Sneako.
So, and exactly. And what your brother knows about Sneako is what Penguin Zero said. Does that make sense?
And that's basically all he could go down, which is like, oh, you said depression isn't real.
Yeah. And so, this is not me disrespecting Penguin Zero. It's just a fact. It's like, okay, he does not take like that deep. Like, Penguin Zero does not go that deep into any real issue. Does that make sense? Like, he is, and it makes sense. He's appealing to the masses, right? So, like, you don't need to get that deep when you actually have like a massive audience, right?
It was just fun. It was fun drama, right? And he didn't even go after Sneako for anything in particular, apart from the cuties thing, which is like the least defensible position that Sneako has to the public.
It's the easiest one. Like, let's be real. Like, it's the most easy one to make a moral grandstand that's not that deep. You know what I mean? Which is fair enough. Like, it makes sense, right? Like, if, again, we're talking power games, like, YouTube drama is power games. It's just different because it's in front of people. So it's like very, very different than like behind the scenes power games. Because it involves influence, and like influence is really like you can't control it as easily. But anyway, the point is though, is that like like basically Jinxie guaranteed, almost completely guarantee, the only context he really had was Penguin Zero's beef. Okay.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm watching that podcast. I'm like, fuck, this is boring in my mind, because I know what Sneako
Thank you, however the
believes,
fuck you say that.
and I know what I would press him on. And Sneako accepted Jinxie's podcast only because he knew he could get his audience of kids to pay attention to Rumble. He's a very, like, Sneako's conscious of influence. He understands this. He's been an influencer for fucking 10 years, right?
I mean, he openly said when sorry to interrupt again. I'm spurging. When you remember the soy boy collage, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
When I was on that, he made the case that the reason why he wants to shit on the soy boy guys is because he can own them and then get people to come from YouTube to Rumble, which is why he would do the responses to all of them. The reason why he said he wouldn't debate me is because he said nobody in his chat was talking about me, and I found that really interesting because he openly was like, "Let's debate," and then none of the Rumble people really knew who the fuck I was.
Yeah. And so let's be clear, Tom. Let's be clear. I was paying attention to all of that, okay? And I learned a few things, and exactly what you just stated is correct, okay? He would fall back on the fact that his chat doesn't give a fuck, it's not interesting to them, that it won't gain him any clout, all this shit. And so, yeah, that's why when I had my little confrontation with Sneako, for like 2 weeks, all his chat was talking about was like fucking, you know, like anytime anything went weird or went wrong in their Discord or on whatever, they'd be like, Gokanaru, like, what is Gokanaru here, or whatever the fuck. Like, they would kind of like lean into him. That's why I wanted to take the fight to his audience, because my goal was to take his fucking audience, like, in a real way. You know what I mean?
Do you think
like,
you did?
I was, yeah, 100%. The
Have
first
you gotten
30,000
like emails or?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten like people in the Discord and all this shit, but the real point is that whether I got them in any grand way, I meant more like they watch my shit, right? Like they actually watch. And so the first like 30,000 views of the Sneako video, like, it initially had a really harsh like to dislike ratio, because again, Sneako released the video on his stream. He literally premiered my video, you know what I mean? And so instantly, right? Like, what happens when Sneako bitches out of watching that and everyone can tell that he's freaked the fuck out? Well, they instantly just went to my channel and just watched the rest of it, because Sneako was a bitch and he backed out. And so there have been like mods of Sneako. There's a mod that fucking like turned whatever. I don't care really about that shit. It's more to me about sending the message of like, what Sneako is doing with Jinxie is he is entering Jinxie's domain and trying to steal his fucking audience. I did the exact same thing to him. And so that's why Sneako block me, right? Like, it's different. There's a difference. I don't know if he blocked
no free
you,
clout.
No free clout, yeah. But like, I don't know if he blocked you, but
he did not. But also, like, I didn't pester him at a certain point. I was just like, oh, he doesn't want to do the combo. He's a pussy. I'll say that and then move on, right?
Well, let's be clear. I've made less videos about Sneako than you have. You know?
Have you?
Like, yeah.
We could say you spent more time on Sneako than I have, and we can. Okay, here's another thing we could say. You infiltrated his community directly with like the puppet bit or whatever. With like fucking with him, getting him to watch the video. I've never done that, so I'm not like a forever tarnished name to him, right?
Yeah, no, you're not. He's not scared of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And he doesn't really have a reason to be, because like, once again, like in sort of a way that critical is, I'd say my analysis is somewhat deeper than his, but I'm not like dissecting his entire career. There's nothing that I said in any of my videos that like somebody who likes Sneako would like change their fucking mind, right? Yeah.
Like this is what needs to be understood. Like, and again, I'm viewing this in a very like, you could say autistic or like just hyper analysis, but this is kind of fun for me. You know what I mean? I do like these power games, but like what occurred with that like game show thing was like a power game. You know what I mean? Like, Sneako felt like he was in control because he was doing a desktop stream, and desktop streams are where you have a lot of control, right? But like, I took the control away from him when he already signed up to reacting to this fucking video, and the chat was fucking with the video, and he had to be like, no, fuck this shit. And then immediately, what does he fall back on? The cope, right? Like, this guy has long hair, he's gay, he's white, you know what I mean? He falls back on the copes, but the copes don't land because they clearly saw in front of everybody that he like, you know, lost or whatever. He like kind of had to back down.
Right. Was chat like, oh, you're owned?
Yeah.
Like
yeah. I mean, Sneako's shit. Yeah. Like, that's what it was. Like, it was two things, basically. It was like people who were sympathetic to him, and they were just like, damn, this dude's creepy, which is fair enough. I totally understand why they would say that.
So,
but the majority was people being like, face your past, you know, you got to do this shit. And so like, or they were like, bro, Sneako, what are you doing, bro? This is content. And so, yeah, that's the big thing, is like, I brought content to him, and then he had to like reject the content, which is not what he's used to, right? Like, that's how it all happened. Like, I would not have gotten featured, or that game show wouldn't have happened if it wasn't content. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I view it, where it's like, I understood how to get to Sneako, and it wasn't it wasn't by glazing him, it wasn't by whatever. It was literally just providing him content. You know what I mean?
So this morning I was at the gym and I was listening to the Baited podcast, and it was the one where it was the one from like the week that the Leafy content cop came out, right? And they were talking about the premise of the video. And back then, a big thing was like an exposed video, like you're exposing someone, you're bringing up something people don't know, right? And they made the delineation in that podcast that it wasn't an exposed video because the point of the video was basically to bully the bully, right? He didn't really bring up anything anybody didn't know. He was basically just like, I'm going to show that this guy who like acts tough and like bullies people is actually an insecure pussy, right?
Yeah. It was a role reversal. Yeah.
Is that kind of the mentality with your video to a large extent? Like, because obviously you had points against him, you dissected his kind of ideology and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of the video was kind of just like, dude, you're a fucking pussy.
Yeah. No, that's facts. Yeah, I was basically trying to coax a response from him, or I was like basically challenging his masculinity, if that makes sense, like in a way, right? Like, okay, here's the big thing, and you can feel free to disagree with me, but like when these guys, especially red pillars, talk about masculinity, what they are talking about is power. That's what they are talking about. Okay, they want
power over other people.
Yeah, that's what power is. Power is not real. So here's the big thing that people confuse: power is not real. Power is a relationship. Okay, it doesn't exist, but you have power if you can influence someone based on a relationship you have to them. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like what is power? Like, I guess you could say that power is like being physically strong, but like in this day and age, what we really understand is like being physically strong is the lowest level of power. Like
because you can't exert physical strength over anyone without going to jail anyway.
Exactly. You can't do it to a cop, that's for sure. You'll die. You can't do it to a person unprovoked, or else you'll go to jail. If you can maybe in the self-defense context, but if it's not self-defense, you're fucked. But the big point is though, is that power is like violence. You only ever resort to violence, like if we're talking power games again, when you've lost power. Like violence is not an act of power. Violence is a tool to gain back power, right? Because power is not real, it's a relationship. And when you're violent to someone, you change the relationship you have to them to being them basically respecting you more, because they understand if you step out of line, I'm gonna fucking hurt you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, but the big thing that I'm getting at with that is basically the idea that, like a guy like Sneako, he understands a little bit about power, right? But like at the end of the day, when they're talking about masculinity, like that. Oh, by the way, do you like my Paw Patrol sticker?
Yeah, that's super cute, dude. Thank awesome, you, bro. Dude.
Yeah, I got drip. But anyway, the point is that when you're talking about masculinity, that's literally like the way they talk about it. It's literally just power, right? And it's kind of weird. It's kind of funny because, and it's true, when you listen to what they describe as like femininity,
well, that's like
subservience to power. Does that make sense?
Like their sense of what a relationship is like, why would I want a woman who's going to annoy me or challenge me? I just want a woman who like will stay at home and whatever else. And I don't think that being a stay-at-home mom is necessarily a bad thing, but I think what people fail to realize is that even in the 50s and 60s, like these stay-at-home moms had power, and the power was over the household and the household dynamics and the children and stuff like that.
You understand. Well, bro, you're totally nailing it. Go on.
Well, the reason I understand this is because in my personal life, my mom is like a girl boss, but like my neighbors growing up, like the woman there, I would see the way that she would interact with the husband, even though she wasn't working. She had a career before she had kids. She chose to no longer have a career because she wanted to have basically the influence and power over the house, over the kids, over certain things. And they had a very separated role. It wasn't like the man was doing everything, right? And I think what Sneako advocates for is basically this idea that like you just need someone who you can push out of the way. You can get what you need from them, which is sex essentially, and that's it. Yeah. And everything else is just like dismissed basically. And that's why he's okay with, once again, like back in the 50s and stuff, obviously people cheat, but it wasn't encouraged, or like among relationships, it wasn't like a cool thing to cheat on your wife. That was very frowned upon. Infidelity was even more frowned upon then than it is now, Right. But the reason why Sneako likes that is because, once again, you have power over the woman. You're able to do whatever you want sexually. It doesn't fucking matter, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's about leverage, power, whatever. And so this is where I get to the kind of thesis. And again, that's why I was saying, like, is it me bullying the bully? Yes, but it's more about me taking power away from the person who's trying to present themselves as powerful.
Right.
Because we need to understand, it is a veil. Like, it's not that I was just bullying Sneako because I wanted to bully Sneako. It's that Sneako was bullying people and pretending to have power, and I stripped that away and I exposed that he actually doesn't. Does that make sense?
Right. It's all an illusion for him, right?
Yeah, it's an illusion. And the big thing, again, most people can see that because Sneako is a low level, kind of like on the power scale. He is low level, right? But his audience, they might not have seen that. So I needed to do that for his audience. That was the challenge. And that's difficult. Let's be clear. That's difficult. When he has control, he does have a high degree of control over his streams. But anyway, the point is though, is that like when we're talking, like you are nailing it, by the way, which is that everybody has power. Every single person has power. If you don't, you're basically just dead. You know what I mean? Like, but the question is, how do you kind of use it, right? Like a mother has a ton of power over a guy if she's pregnant, right? Assuming the guy cares about the offspring, if that makes sense, right? Like, again, this isn't an anti-woman angle, but there is a phenomenon where, yes, sometimes women will purposely try to get pregnant without consulting the guy in order to basically anchor themselves into the relationship with the guy. Does that make sense?
Right.
Because they understand that is like a way for them to gain power. Do you know? And again, people aren't this conscious. People are not this conscious of it, but it is real, right? So like in the case of, and you were nailing it. Like, okay, so a weird relationship of power is, picture this, right? Like, okay, so if you are an only child, okay, this is why a lot of people try to kind of understand what is the only child phenomenon, because only children do kind of act a bit differently than people who grew up in bigger families. And the only child phenomenon in my mind, again, this is all according to me, so feel free to jump in, but like,
well, the thing in that situation is they inherently are born with power because they just get attention for existing, versus somebody with siblings, like it's divvied up. There's never as much attention as you want. Like I remember when I was younger, feeling the clear shift.
Bring it back. Okay, I'm trying to become powerful at the very least so that I can protect myself. And so one of the ways that I realized I need to gain power, I want to rely less on YouTube ads and YouTube, because I've gotten strikes. Like I have a strike on my channel for content I've made.
He was turning 3 and we're 4.5 years apart. So he was turning 3. I'm 7 years old. For his birthday, my dad gave me a Nintendo DS. So now why the fuck would he give me that for his birthday?
That's weird.
The reason why I realize now, and I've even asked my dad about this and he's confirmed it to me, is because he was like, okay, this is the last time that you're going to get the single child, the only child treatment, because now the attention is going to be diverted to your brother, who needs more focus because he's younger than you, right? He's entering school soon. He needs more attention. So I was basically given the Nintendo DS as like kind of a last huzzah of being the spoiled only child. And that's why I got that. And now I have another power example of something I've realized over the Gilted X, which it seems sort of intuitive, but I'll just explain this. So in the Cenat situation, or in any situation where, let's say, a powerful man is like, a Gilted X is coming after them, and it's not on the basis of like, he abused me, he beat me or something, or it's a false allegation, right? Why do they do this? A lot of people will say, oh, well, it's clout, it's attention. They want attention for whatever, right? The actual answer, I think, most of the time is that if you're a powerful man, if you have money, if you have influence, you can basically leave a relationship and not have to really worry about it that much. Obviously, there's emotional harm that comes to you, but if you can get past that, you're going to be just fine, right? If you can get rid of that fucking, whatever. The reason that the woman does this, the reason she comes out publicly, is because she can't affect him within the paradigm of the personal relationship. It doesn't fucking matter to him whatever she does. She can say whatever she wants. It doesn't matter. But his career is the thing that's keeping him afloat. His career is the thing that's keeping him separated, that allows him to escape that and not have to worry about it. Because if he didn't have that career, maybe he'd be broke. Maybe he would have to still live with her or something. But if you have that money and you have that career, you can escape basically any situation spontaneously, right? So the reason the woman does this is because the only power she can exert over him to get his fucking attention is to go public.
Yeah, and so this is, in my mind, what hate is, like real hate. And so this is just me talking, but like love, in my mind, is like self-sacrificing for the betterment of another person. Hate is when you try to take someone down, basically, for like a gain to yourself. Does that make sense? And you can view that as just a power game. Like you don't need to say it's like love and hate, but like you're right. That is a relationship that, and again, this is like semi-rare that this happens, but people, again, on a subconscious level, they understand these games. And someone who is suddenly, released from a relationship, and it could have been in a really bitchy or like shitty way, right? Like a guy can be a total dickhead and like just say fuck off. Like there is some power that the person who was just jilted can have over that guy, right? Like again, with Cenat, there's probably a lot more to the story. The what actually happened, we can say, is pretty black and white. Like that's a bitch move by the woman, right? But there's like a lot that goes into it. Like love can turn into hate really easily as well. Like it's like a weird kind of thing. But if we're talking about pure power games, like the only child thing is really interesting, because the second that you have brothers, and this is what I'm going to frame it in a bit of a different way, okay? Because I like what you were saying. You're really nailing this shit. I love it. This is great. But like the weird thing is not necessarily that your dad was like consciously like, okay, now the power is shifting to your younger brother. It was more so that like you did lose a lot of power by your brother entering the picture. But what was that power over? Yes, it was over your fucking parents. And so this is a weird thing that happens with only children, is that they will realize at some point, they will subconsciously realize they actually have a fuck ton of power over basically, the parents in the household, which usually it would be the opposite relationship. But like, again, people say this about babies too. Like babies are extremely powerful because they get whatever they want. That's true. And that's kind of not true. Because babies, I don't know, they do get what they want, but they can't like really think.
I mean, they get whatever they want, but also there's nothing to stop you from, dropping them on their head like Onision's child.
Exactly.
Fucking but like diving out of the battle bus in Fortnite right into the pavement. Holy shit. Based.
Just like kick it in the head, see how far it goes.
Dude, he was going for tilted towers. I maintained that child Onision did nothing wrong. He was he was trying to go to Shady Shoals or whatever to get the fucking jug.
Yeah. But like, okay, so what ends up happening is that you didn't realize that you had the power you had over your parents, like consciously,
until it was gone.
Until it was gone. And that's usually how power works, unfortunately, right? It's hard to regain it when you always had it, you know what I mean? And it's taken away. But the thing with an only child is that they actually never lose that power over their parents. They never do. And the reason is because their parents, it's like all the eggs are in the basket for them, right? Does that make sense? All like the parent, again, this all assumes the parent gives a fuck about the kid, but when it's an only child, they have way more incentive to give a fuck, because if your kid dies, your legacy is dead, you know what I mean? And so like an only child will have this weird kind of sense of entitlement where it's like, they are so used to having power in their relationship with their parents that, they become like really good businessmen, really good people, whatever, because they just assume this role of like, I am powerful. And so here's what I'm bringing this to, is that there are people who
see, that's interesting, because I found that only like most of the only children I've known have become fucking losers because they were handed everything.
Okay. Yeah, but this is another thing. Like, okay, you're right. This is like a big thing. Like, okay, think about this, right? Okay, so what kind of guy does it take to like fuck a 15-year-old? Okay.
I mean, there are a few types of guys.
Yeah, most of the time, what do you think of when you think of basically, we're just gonna say pedophile? Like, what do you think of when you think of that?
Well, there's a distinction, because I think for colloquial reasons we can probably call them both a groomer, or I don't have no problem with someone calling a 30-year-old who fucks a 15-year-old a pedo. I'm not going to feel bad for that dude. But I think the distinction is that there's the pedophile that's exclusively attracted to children, and then there's the guy who like is willing to be with someone like that, either because they lack sex in their life before their fame or whatever, or something like that. Like there is a distinction. Obviously, both are still horrible. I don't think we should feel bad for these guys, but yeah.
I'm not taking this from like an angle of sympathy, empathy, whatever. It's just like, okay, the raw reality of the type of person, this archetype, usually when you think of a pedo, you think of a fucking loser, right? Like that's kind of what I go to, at least. You usually think of someone who is a fucking loser in like almost every, kind of normal context. And what we do usually attribute being a loser to is like having no power, right? So like, what does a guy with no power, he might not have money, he definitely doesn't have women, whatever. What is he going to do? He's going to try and gain power over a woman because he like, I guess, wants to have sex.
Well, the question is, what about the guys who get famous and have a bunch of money and then they end up doing that? They have power.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you. And so Tate fucks, allegedly, 15-year-olds. Okay, I put a confession of him saying that in the Sneako video. Again, not full confession, whatever. But the fact is, he absolutely fucks 16-year-olds. Okay, and as like a 30-plus-year-old man. All right. And so why would a guy like Tate do that? Tate is not a loser by almost every single metric. He is considered a guy who is highly competent and who is a winner. Right. He literally constantly reaffirms to himself and to his audience, I'm a fucking winner. You're the loser. Right. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck would Tate be fucking 16-year-olds? And the reason is, because he is a predator. He is a real predator. And I say this in not like the same context that we call people predators, like just that they want to fuck kids. Yeah. I say this in a literal, like almost animal mindset where it's like Tate, like a predator understands power games extremely well. And so does a prey. Okay. Like this relationship, they understand it extremely well. There's no talking out of it. It's like, again, it's like the predator wants something. He's trying to take it from the prey, and the prey basically has to protect it. Okay. And so again, this isn't me getting hippy dippy. This is like the reality of how a guy like Tate would think, is like, he is oriented around this predator mindset where it's like, he actually doesn't really give a fuck how he gets there. He just wants what he wants. And what does he want? He wants to dominate. He wants a woman who he can have complete power over. Does that make sense?
And who better than someone who,
Exactly.
Can't even understand what's going on. Yeah.
Literally, who better than someone who is too young to understand any of these dynamics is, I guess he says, the weird thing, man, a lot of these right wingers, and the reason it's so funny, man, the reason that I spent so much fucking time looking at these guys is because they are truly really, really interesting, because they do understand power dynamics really well. Okay. And so again, a lot of these right wingers, they fixate and they state this, and I'm so confused. Why do they always talk about
why do they show that? Why do they show their hand? Yeah.
Yeah, why do they always talk about wanting to fuck 16-year-olds?
Do you think it's because like they just like that they get away with it and they know that no one can stop them? Is that it?
Well, it's that when a predator's okay. Again, I'm using this word too liberally for like the public, but like you guys understand the context. It's like kind of an animal type predator mindset. When a predator
the gorilla.
Yeah, basically when a predator gets too comfortable, the predator's not used to being on the defense, okay?
Gorilla mode!
Defense and like covering their tracks. They're just used to getting what they want, right? So they'll get really uncareful. Does that make sense? Like, I think you get what I'm saying, where it's like,
sure.
The difference is though, is that when you're online,
when you've been on top for so long, you think you can't even conceive losing.
Yeah, but when you're online, you are being examined. And when you're examined, being examined is powerful because other people can get privy and understand what you're doing. But again, a guy like Tate, he was underground for so fucking long, bro. The shit he was saying, the most extreme shit that Tate said was when he was pretty much irrelevant. He was in these like really weird niche circles, which were
that's when I started watching him. Funnily enough, that's when I found out about him.
Same, yeah. I mean, but you're like, it's funny because my first time meeting Tate was through Moist Critical. Like Moist had an interview with Tate. Okay,
he did.
Yeah, and he removed it. It's funny because
was it on the official podcast?
Yep, yeah, it was like 5-6 years ago. That was my first intro to Tate, and at that time, it was just like goofy. This guy's so funny because
who would take it seriously, right?
Exactly, but then somehow this guy who, again, the circles that Tate was operating in were people who really, really understood power games because they're predators. Okay, and again, I say that like. Just understand what I mean by that is that they are people who care way more about getting what they want than how they get there, okay? And that's why Tate spawned from these pimping circles, because he understands basically the fundamental principle of like, what is the most that you can dominate a woman, okay? Because he's, again, about domination. This is the goal. The goal is to have complete power over someone, which is domination. You exploit their body for money, so you financially gain from it. You basically keep them at home. They don't have friends, and they can't basically like talk to other people. Obviously, you have a ton of leverage then because they can't like even realize that this is fucked up. You will keep them in front of a camera for viewers. You know what I mean? So like basically their appearance is like the most important thing. And of course, you can take away a girl's appearance by hitting them. Does that make sense?
Face.
And so there are videos of Tate hitting women, slapping women in the face, all this shit. And it's like, that is an act of domination. Like, that's facts.
In fairness, wasn't that in the context of like having sex with them or whatever?
Allegedly. Again, I'm not saying that as like, oh, Tate, is a woman beater. I'm just saying that is his fetish. Like, that is a known thing. Does that make sense? Like, it makes sense. This is a guy who's obsessed with domination, and so his fetish is like to physically. Again, what's the lowest level of gaining power over someone? It's physically. Does that make sense? So it's like am I being coherent, or is this kind of too much? Because what I was bringing that back to is basically the idea of like, yes, you exploit the woman's body, you make money off of it, okay? You can literally keep them at the house. They never see other people, basically. They work for you. So, like, again, that's another social circle that you're dominating. And then, guess what? You can impregnate them and keep them at a different house. And then only when you want to basically fuck them, because God forbid, like, I doubt that he really, even wants to talk to them that much. Maybe he does. I don't fucking know.
Lotan said, where was this Gokunaru on kick or keep? I agree. Where the fuck was it? You need to say something like, how do you take away women's appearance by hitting them? You need to say that on kick or keep.
Yeah, but do you understand the problem with kick or keep is that I am a long-winded fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
so you just need to pull out you just need to pull out like the funnious things you can possibly say, I think.
Yeah, but when I say this shit,
I know you're not saying it to be funny, but it is funny.
No, I know it's funny. Like, I know we're in front of an audience. That's like, I'm kind of fucking around a little bit with like the words and stuff, but like the point is on kick or keep, like it is literally, if I just say the punchline, it's just so much less funny to me. You know what I mean? Like,
fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Kick or keep is tough for me, bro, because like when I'm trying to like follow a train of thought, like I'm really like trying to get to this destination. I'm trying to like explain it properly.
You're getting to it. It's a story. Yes, I understand. There's a narrative to it. Yeah.
on Kick or Keep, it's actually a debate, right? Like you helped me get to where I'm at right now with this conversation, but like on Kick or Keep, there'd be like 6 people trying to derail it. You know what I mean? It's tough. But anyway,
well, it's a debate, but it's also like it's just getting out like the words in the shortest amount of time possible, so Wes, by the way, can't fucking scream over you, right?
Yeah, and like that's fair. That's just the rules of the game. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to like get better at.
The extended release Adderall hit too late. Yeah, literally.
Is that me? No.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. I mean, okay, I don't know. Is everyone enjoying the conversation? Because I haven't looked at my chat.
I am enjoying the conversation.
Okay, I guess that's all that matters then. Fuck you guys. But
no, literally, fuck the fans, like Keemstar says. Fuck the fans.
No, literally. Yeah, this is actually a rule that I have. Like, if I'm having a good conversation, I'm sorry to my chat, but like I just don't care like what they think.
Well, okay, so let's explore the power thing from your perspective. What are forms of power that you're trying to gain and exert? Because obviously you need power to get anything done.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so again, this is a big thing. Like, okay, how does somebody? This is complicated because there's so many players. Okay, there's so many players at like going on, and it's like, okay, man, fuck. Ooh.
I mean, how about money?
Right. So money. Okay. So this is a big thing. So how much of your power, Tom, like we're talking money, how much of your money is wrapped up in YouTube? Okay.
You mean like how much money came from YouTube?
How much of the money that you make, your income is basically from YouTube. And I'm talking about YouTube, literally the website, not just like other platforms, sponsors, whatever.
All of it.
Right. Okay, exactly. And so YouTube has a fuck ton of power over you.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so that's why and you've said this before, and it's completely makes perfect sense that you would say this, but like there's one point where you were a little bit paranoid about getting deplatformed, and that's fair. Like, trust me, like that is a real thing that can happen, as we've seen. But like it makes sense that you would take measures to basically be more fucking careful, knowing that YouTube has the power to fuck up your life.
There is a hand that feeds, my friend. There's a hand that
feeds. There is
feeds.
Absolutely a hand that feeds, yeah.
And for like, everyone I've talked to be clear, I don't think I hold any opinions or have done anything bannable ever in my life.
I agree,
but what I am saying is that based on what I've seen, like, do you think Sneako is having a fun time being banned? Do you think looking back, he is happy about that? I don't think so.
It's hard to say because
the thing is, like, on one hand, I know he knows he couldn't have gotten like nearly as big as he was or gotten any of that, like, you know, without being bannable. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think sometimes he looks back and he's probably like, man, fuck, I wish I was still on YouTube, man. I think if I was him to an extent, I'd probably think back to like before the streaming stuff. He's too deep now. But, you know, he commanded a respect. He was making art. He was having fun. And now he tries to make that art and nobody gives a fuck about it. Like, he's tried to make videos that are kind of like in that line. And he always has to insert this like retarded red pill shit into it in like a very haphazard way. Or I'll just take a personal example. I remember talking to Leafy about this, right? And Leafy had conversations with me and Augie about this very briefly, where he was like, man, I fucking hate being banned. Whatever you do not get banned. This fucking blows.
Bro, that's really true. Like, keep going because you're nailing it again, but go, yeah. Sorry.
Well,
got fucked.
He did get fucked. And the thing is, I don't think he thought he was going to get banned. I think contrary to Sneako, I don't think he was trying to. I think he wanted the attention of like being kind of a, you know, pseudo martyr, being controversial, and certainly for the time he was getting that. But with the Pokey shit, like, does he actually care about Pokimane? I think the answer is probably not. And part of the reason that I say that is because he almost didn't have anything to say about her. Like, he kind of just constructed like the basic Reddit arguments against Pokimane, put that together and was like, Pokimane fucking sucks. For all the history parts of his videos about Pokimane, I don't know if people remember this. My video of Pokimane that at the time had like 1 million views, every substantive part of his videos was literally just clipping that and putting it into the fucking video. In the actual biggest video he had about Pokimane that had like millions of views, I think he probably talked for like 20% of it. The rest was just clips of her, clips from my video, random clips of people calling her out. He barely even knew what the fuck was going on, like, to me. I think he just saw, oh, if I shit on this person, if I'm unforgiving to her, I'll get a big audience from it, I'll get attention. And that's why the subsequent videos about Pokey, I think out of the 8 videos with her in the title, I think like 3 of them were actually about her, maybe even 2, and the rest were just random bullshit. But he knew that by using her name, he would get attention from it. And it's in the same way that back in the day, like, did he really care about the people he was roasting? His roasts were fucking uncreative bullshit for the most part. They were like not good. They were like not good. But he knew that people wanted to see him do that. He knew he could convert that into money. And, you know, this isn't like a revelatory thing. I think everybody realizes this about Leafy. But then once he was banned, what was the only thing he could do to get attention? when he came back, it was tweeting about how he wanted to, you know, get rid of certain groups of people. Does he actually want to do that or care about that? I would say no.
Okay. So this is where we get into interesting territory. This is like the Leafy phenomenon is something I've been thinking about a lot because I have empathy for Leafy, okay? Because like, first of all, obviously it's not like his life is going well from the way that he presents himself. Does that make sense? Like, he's not like some guy from a position of power saying like all gays should, you know, XX, whatever. He's like basically and I identify this in the Sneako video, kind of expose his veil a little bit, where it's like he is a loser.
Calvin Veil, that's his name.
Yeah, but he's like a loser who is just lashing out. And so this is where we get into resentment. What is resentment?
When you say, the thing is, when you say loser, do you mean loser in a literal sense of like his life isn't going good, or do you mean loser like he lost the game?
He didn't have power. He's not powerful. That's what I mean. Okay, like he lost the game of power. Correct. Yeah, but like again, don't ever.
Lotan in chat says it's because Leafy wants power. It makes sense now. The word power is just being used colloquially just to analyze people's intentions here. I know it sounds like retarded a little bit, but I think you can follow that train of thought.
Yeah, it's this is why
Lotan said I fucking knew it.
Using these terms, it's like it's harder like in front of an audience who's not fully tuned in, but like you get what I'm saying, which is like power is like ability to exert control over your life and over other people. Okay, right? Like again, this is the way that I use it. And so a guy like Leafy, he did get castrated by YouTube. Like he lost his power. Like, and again, it's not this thing where he even knew. He didn't really. You were right. He did not expect to get banned. And in my opinion, that was actually a shocking ban to me because, dude. Like
there was no precedent for anything like that,
bro. Like, just listen to this. If we are comparing what Leafy got banned for versus Meat Canyon's Sneako video, where Sneako gets literally torn apart, Meat Canyon's video is 10 times worse than Leafy's video. Okay, 10 times. I mean that sincerely. Like,
can you explain that?
Okay, all right, pretty simple. Okay, so Leafy gets banned for a fucking animation that another guy made that Leafy just lazily tacked on at the end of a video. Okay, it's a joke animation.
You think that's what he got banned for?
That is what he got banned for.
How do you know that?
Isn't that the whole fucking thing? I
thought YouTube didn't explicitly explain it, and they were just like he got banned for harassment. We don't like harassment on our platform.
the last Leafy video was his video on Ethan Klein, where he got a strike for creator-on-creator simulated violence, which is exactly what I got a strike for my H3 video.
Was that actually it? I didn't even remember that detail.
Okay, we can go back and vet this, but I'm pretty sure I looked into this at the time, and I think I re-looked into it like fucking 8 months ago. But anyway, other people can confirm this, but if you look up the last Leafy video, there is an animation of Ethan Klein dying at the end. But it is in such it's like so... obviously just stupid kind of satire, but here's the big things, the like reasons you could say like, oh, this is like a legitimate threat. Again, Leafy didn't make this, he just added it at the end of a video, but it basically shows it's a creepypasta type vibe. It's creepy as fuck. There's creepy music, whatever. It's creepy animation too, because it's like really shitty animation. Anyway, and then it's basically just like text to speech, Ethan talking, and then it pans over and there's just a horse beside him, basically. Okay. And then Leafy enters the picture somehow, and it's like Leafy worships reptilians, because that was like an old fucking meme. And so Leafy's like, yes, Ethan, I'm going to fucking, I'm going to get you, Ethan. And then Leafy does some fucking like demon chant. Okay. And then Ethan willingly, this is all animated, and it's really shittily animated. And this leads to Ethan just walking voluntarily up a hill and jumping off of the cliff. And that's basically the end of the animation. That's how the video ends, okay? Now, you can say maybe that is like, offensive, or you can say many things about this. But the end of the day, if you're comparing it to Meat Canyon's video about Sneako, it quite literally is explicitly making fun of, Sneako's girlfriend is literally getting fucked right behind him. Right. And then Sneako turns around and Charlie is at the door with like whatever it is, maybe a gun or it's just his hair, I'm not sure. And Sneako, literally, you see it like so fucking vividly. Sneako's freaking out and he gets torn apart by Charlie literally on camera, like obviously murdered or whatever. And so in my mind, that's way more targeted, way more views. That got so many views. But you know why YouTube doesn't give a fuck? Because Sneako has no power. Does that make sense? Like Sneako has, like, he has already lost the power game.
I guess the question is, like, why would they particularly care about Ethan Klein?
Well, the thing is that he does have power. First of all, he is kind of like on that Daily Wire wave. This is not me confirming a conspiracy. No. I mean that in the sense that he has like he's kind of a verified creator, or he was at that time. Let's be clear, he was at that time. He's kind of lost that because he is a little bit edgy. Like he has like, remember when he had like a beef with Ben Shapiro because he made a joke, like Ethan Klein made a joke, and then Ben Shapiro probably, like, I don't know if he bitched to the fucking, you know, YouTube. I don't know what happened there, but basically there was a point though where Ethan Klein did have like a amicable, solid relationship with YouTube. He met obviously the CEO, and that's not me being a conspiracy theorist. It's just that he had a relationship with them, right? That is somewhat like, that does, again, your connections.
For the CEO to even visit you, you have to be safe enough, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, exactly, and the CEO, if the CEO visits you, they are going to want to look out for the people that the CEO came into contact with, because again, these are influencers, right?
Well, it's like she hung out with him. Like, what a bad look would it be if that guy got banned?
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because YouTube is so bad at fucking paying attention that she met Shane Dawson, she met fucking James Charles, and like all these people ended up, you know, having big
Shane
controversies.
Dawson is like hilarious, dude.
Yeah, yeah, but that's why the CEOs and whatever of YouTube, they don't really talk to anybody unless they're really vetted now. But anyway, the point though is that, like, I'm not saying again that Ethan Klein did anything. I don't know. That's the big thing. But the big thing is that someone at YouTube did take down my video. Somebody at YouTube did take down Leafy's, right? And so what's the reason for that? Well, yeah, I mean, Sneako, again, doesn't have any power as far as YouTube is concerned. And H3 at the very least has more, right? Just and again, just he has more than Sneako or Leafy did, right? Now, that's not, again, I just want to really emphasize, I'm not saying there's any conspiracy. That's just kind of the relationship. Does that make sense?
Sure. People in chat are saying you're a pseudo-intellectual. How do you feel about that?
I mean, that's fine. You can, like, okay, you can totally think that. But if you actually listen to what I'm saying, the big thing is, is what I'm saying coherent, right? Like, that's why I was testing Ice Poseidon.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Like, it's one thing if you just randomly tuned in and you don't understand where we came from, but like, my big thing is to identify pseudo-intellectualism. It's like, are they following a train of thought? You know
well, it's this because we don't have power. I like the power meme. Can we make this like a meme?
I'm trying to. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. You can lean into it as much as you want.
Black
but, like,
power, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that they say it like that. Like, they understand, like, kind of.
They need power.
That's true, that's literally what it is. Like, historically, they didn't. Which is true. Like, that's true. And then when you get into like systems, this is like, I could talk for fucking hours about this shit, but like the point is with Leafy, it's like when Leafy lost power, right? Like that was a big moment for him where he got humbled. And I don't say that as in he deserved it, but it's like he just, like, that is what happens when you lose everything that you've been building or whatever. And so what did he double down on? I guess the money, maybe. Like the big thing was that he always advertised that he had money. That was like a facet of power, by the way. Like Leafy was a guy who understood power to a small extent, where it's like, he did hide his chin. Let's be clear. He hid his chin because he understood that the way you look actually does change the amount of power or influence that you can have. Does that make sense?
Well, like, especially if you're a bully.
Yeah, for sure. Like, exactly. It was a beautiful moment because iDubbbz did exactly. Leafy's big thing was that he shit on ugly people or whatever. And so iDubbbz did hit him in his Achilles heel again. Like he exposed the thing and basically exposed the veil that he doesn't actually have as much power as he thinks.
So
and
the
that
thing
was
is, like, I would argue that doing the opposite is actually more beneficial, especially long term, because for Leafy, the moment he was seen as ugly, it's like it's over. But if you're allowing yourself to be more vulnerable and be seen as like unattractive or ugly in certain respects, like off the rip, then you don't have to rely on that as much. You can just rely on what you actually have to say. You know, which if you have something to say is important. And I guess just at the time, Leafy didn't, you know.
I mean, like, okay, again, this is not something I'm consciously aware of. Like, again, when it comes to power games, most of them are automatic. Like, again, unless it's really like a situation where people understand what's going on. But like back when I was responding to H3 or like I made my H3 video, one of the first jokes I made was that I have a big ass fucking nose, right? And that was me priming, because I know like so many people they were commenting about my nose, like that was real. But also like, yes, it could be used against me. So
Jew Canary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like whatever. And it's like, I don't care about that shit because just honestly, like I put up with more like shit than like I've been on the internet too long to give a fuck, but it is a way to like semi protect yourself where it's like, okay, I'm going to make fun of myself with it first. That's a way to like that people regain power. Right. So like, again, yeah, like, okay, what power do lol cows have? They have a little bit of power. They try to hold on to it as much as they can because the power they have is that, yeah, people do watch them and they give them money, right? Like they have a little bit, a smidge of power over these fucking random weirdos who are watching them, right?
Because the attention would go away if they didn't embarrass themselves. So that's why they have to keep that up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so when we're, again, just last time, but we bring it back to fucking Leafy. When you're on these alternate platforms, Leafy realized something. It's really hard to gain popularity or influence or power on these platforms. And so what did he do? The first thing that he did, because again, Leafy understands power games to a decent extent, especially in the context of like the public, he immediately attacked bigger creators. He immediately attacked Destiny and like showed naked photos of fucking Melina on stream or something like that. Right? He immediately he immediately jumped onto the wave of hating gay people, which he understood. Like, okay, this is a wave. Sneako also jumped on this wave.
Well, he always has a habit of you know how people talk about in prison, like the first thing they do when they get in there is they punch the biggest guy in the room in the face.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was doing with Ice Poseidon in the thing a little bit, right? Like, yeah.
And so, like, the reason you do that is to just show, like, you're fearless, you'll fight anyone. Therefore, if you fuck with me, like, it's probably going to be worse for you. Even if I get beat up in that interaction, it's like, well, at least I fucking punched the biggest guy. I'm crazy enough to do that. For Leafy, it's like, I'll punch fucking Pokemon in the face, metaphorically, because, you know, she's the forbidden safe person. He got punished for that. Yeah. And then it was like, when he comes back, it's like, well, let's punch the other forbidden person, which is the concept of transsexuality, basically. Like, the one thing you can't make fun of, or then it became, I guess, the Jews or whatever, right? Yeah, yeah. And let's be clear, like, okay, YouTube does step in to protect these groups, okay? And there's different levels of sincerity that you could attribute to them. Again, when it comes to intention, it's really hard to really nail intention. But when it comes to a business, intention becomes a lot easier because, let's be clear, they are making money. That is the intention. Like, whether it's a long-term or short-sighted view, the goal is to make money. So, like, again, you can say that there are people at YouTube who empathize with the trans movement, and this is likely true. I understand, and, like, it's fucking understandable as fuck. But at the end of the day, like, they also understand that, like, advertisers do want like this kind of thing to not be on, like, you know, attributed to their ad, right? Like they are responding to the people who have power over them. Does that make sense? And again, it comes back to money, right? Like the consumer, what power does the fucking consumer have over fucking Pepsi? Well, if fucking, you know, Pepsi platforms someone who hates trans people, the consumer can, like, you know, basically wield influence because the consumer doesn't actually have any fucking real power, but they can basically collectively come together and just fucking like be like, we're not drinking this, we fuck this, and like tarnish their brand basically. So it does come back to money at the end of the day with YouTube. So yes, like shitting on trans people in a way that's really truly offensive is too much for advertisers. And again, the morality of it, you can debate. Like, there's so much you could say, right? Like, of course, it's like disrespectful, all this shit. But the reason that it gets banned is pretty simple. It's like a lot of risk that they take on for not much gain at all, right? Like, already these guys who are like super anti-trans, they're already fucked off to other platforms. Does that make sense? Like, YouTube's not really going to gain that much by having like real, true, like genuine, deep, like public haters of trans people. But of course, they'll still platform people who they're like more subtle about it, if that makes sense. Like Matt Walsh, it's funny that they tell him stop misgendering people, but they don't tell him like stop saying that trans people don't exist. You know what I mean? Like, right. They want him to stop doing the offensive thing, not to stop believing like something, because they don't give a fuck, right? It's the offensive thing that gets attention. Does that make sense? It's the offensive thing that like advertisers look at. That's the same thing with Sneako. Like, a lot of his ideas are not that crazy, and there's guys saying the same shit, but the way he said it was just not cool. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. The vibe, the fucking. We're killing it. I think that realistically we fucking ran through 50 topics in 1 minute. So yeah.
I think that I'm maybe like a little bit cracked out because of that kick or keep fucking stream or whatever. But no, I definitely love these fucking conversations, bro. I like you because you do entertain shit. Does that make sense? Like I'm not really sure. Does Destiny do this as well?
What do you mean by that? Like, I entertain.
Like
I entertain ideas, or?
Yeah. Like, you'll let me go on a long ass tangent or whatever.
Oh, well, it's just like I guess it's just like I personally find it interesting. Obviously, the audience and I find it schizo. I understand from some of the phrasing around just like constantly using the word power why it may get like, okay, this is pseudo intellectual, but the actual basic stuff that you're saying is like, it's like demonstrably true. It's kind of hard to argue with, and even beyond that, it's just like I personally find it enriching and interesting to have a conversation with you. So why would I shut that off just because the audience in the moment is like, fuck that?
Thank you, bro.
I would rather engage in that repeatedly so that I can continue to have more conversations like this and I can actually enjoy my fucking time on stream instead of wanting to blow my brains out. I don't want to be a slave.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. And that, to be honest with you, that shows me that like you're not just a streamer, which you're not, obviously. But like streamers, there is this thing that happens where their brain does get fucking wired to please their chat, right? So like if the chat isn't enjoying a conversation, like a streamer, they'll basically just try to end it, if that makes sense. Yeah, but no, I'm glad. But yeah, moral of the story though.
The thing is, ultimately, like the goal of the stream is to be able to talk about stuff that I'm interested in that also overlaps with the audience. And so like certain times will I make concessions to that, like certainly if nobody cares about something like at all, I probably won't talk about it. But generally I have a pretty big overlap between what my viewers want me to talk about and what I want to talk about. And I would rather be able to have my own leeway to have conversations like this rather than like, if it was always just what the viewers wanted, then anytime I talk about something that mildly interests me, everybody just goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And that's like, it's good that you're priming your viewers with that as well, because like the more that you bend, the more you'll have to bend, if that makes sense. Like I do that to my viewers as well. Like I'm live right now and they understand already that like these streams, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. You know what I mean? I prime them so that it's like whatever's going on,
you need
I'm
to
in
groom
control.
them. Yes.
Yeah. But
well, like look at like, you know who Myth is? Like he was one of the biggest Fortnite dudes a while ago. Yeah. Have you seen like the tweets and videos being like, how did he fall off this bad? Have you seen?
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, he like reacts to it, and it's kind of a bit sad, but it's kind of like he's managed, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So my understanding is the reason he got big was because he was good at Fortnite. That's my understanding, right? And basically, when Fortnite was no longer the thing, nobody gave a fuck. Now I've seen some Myth streams, and to be honest with you, like he's not the most boring person in the world, but from what I've seen, he's just not the most compelling personality to listen to outside of him being good at Fortnite. And so when he fucking sucked. Or sorry, when Fortnite wasn't the biggest thing in the world anymore, nobody really cared. Ninja wasn't doing it for a little bit. It was just like, why even watch this guy? And so he lost it all. And so the problem with that, I think, is he unconsciously banked his entire career on being good at Fortnite. And when it didn't really matter to be that good in Fortnite and you had to be more of a personality, people didn't care that much anymore. And I think Ninja doesn't really have that problem as much.
Yeah, Ninja does have that problem, but not to the same degree, I guess. Because the thing with Ninja is Mixer really overestimated Ninja's power, if that makes sense. Like, Like I know it's
just
a meme, but like,
keep putting the word in, keep going.
I think it's kind of just funny to keep dropping it, like it'll become a meme. But anyway, whatever. Ninja basically, he did have like some influence, but like it was such surface level influence, right? Because it's like people liked him because he was popular at the game. The big thing with Ninja though is that he had an audience prior to popping off at Fortnite. Does that make sense?
He wasn't just
he had a core audience from the guy was a professional Halo player for fucking 10 years before Fortnite popped off. You know what I mean? And so Ninja was he had a core audience that was real, all this stuff. He also had he did make a ton of money, you know what I mean? Brands, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like his actual power over his audience was not as strong enough to like carry Mixer.
They thought he was going to like make that platform.
Yeah, exactly. They thought that he was actually powerful, if that made like, again, I'm just going to keep saying it, but like they thought that he had the power to get other people onto Mixer, right? Like to influence other people's decisions. And in reality, to change other people's decisions. But like in reality, it's just like, he's just kind of an influencer, you know what I mean? Like he can only kind of sway people a little bit. Like
there's a funny clip of him when he was live on Mixer. And the Twitch awards or some shit were going on. I don't know what the fuck it was. Maybe the streamer awards. I don't know what it was, but some streamer convention where Blink 182 was playing live. And I think he was like a fan of them. And Blink on stage was like, fuck Mixer. And he was like, wait, what the fuck? And he got kind of pissed about it. And it was clear that like, that's just kind of an unrelated funny note. It doesn't really connect here, but they basically were banking a lot on the success of him and just like him alone. And I think the problem is like, obviously he had friends, but let's say if he had kind of a community around him where there was like kind of a unique thing, there could have been a bunch of streamers to go there, which I think that like Kick capitalized on a little more by taking people like Aiden Ross, because there's like people peripheral to him who like stream with him all the time. Ninja didn't have as much of this like wave that he came up on. It was kind of just Ninja blew the fuck up.
Yeah, and let's be clear, like Ninja has kind of joked that like he was glad Mixer died, and that's true and that's false. So like Ninja definitely believed and definitely hoped that Mixer would pop off, right? Because then he would be like at the ground level, he would have so much power, so much control over this thing that he helped to raise up. But when he realized that his viewership was shit and that it wasn't really working, he was happy that it collapsed because then he could go back to Twitch and he could receive the money. You know what I mean? But like his hope wasn't. It was definitely that he wanted it to work. You know what I mean? Yeah, I definitely Ninja's an interesting example because like here's the big thing when you try to have influence over kids really change quickly, okay? Like they really do. And so you can lose that really quickly if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, well, because they outgrow shit super fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and that's why like Sneako literally targets kids. And it's like, of course he does, because any adult will like think he's a dumbass, right? Like he kind of has to, but it is so short-sighted in a way, because it's like, yeah, I mean, once they get socialized, right? Like once they're basically like having to like actually try to attract women or like talk to people at their school or whatever. Yeah, I mean the JQ or whatever like meme like stupid ass shit that Sneako does that like attracts people, that's like not going to seem that cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah. They're very fleeting. Well, that's why like the thing about him that I said which was like it's all edge and no point. I think he thought he had a point or he thought he was writing something, but Andrew Tate, to his credit, at the very least, he has like a coherent philosophy around what he wants to do. It's not like a good one, but he does have like I mean, once again, like this like hunt or be hunted type thing is kind of a thing that's coherent with his life, and he maintains that. Yeah. Sneako is not really in a position to hunt anyone.
So this is where I'm glad you're bringing it back, because I kind of did just venture out a bit, but yeah. So bring it back to Tate. Tate is interesting because. I said this earlier, but people might get whiplash now if they just join. But like I said, Tate has a predator mindset, okay? And I do mean that in more of like the animalistic way, but you could attribute it to like, you know, being a literal whatever predator.
Basically the deal with Tate is like when he talks about his philosophy seems kind of like a juxtaposition, like an oxymoron, because on one hand he's like OnlyFans is evil, but on the other hand he profits directly from OnlyFans. And how do you see that? Well, the way he reconciles that is because he sees the world as like unchangeable. People are what they are. All you can do is exist within that paradigm, basically. And so therefore it's fine for him to simultaneously profit off of the misery of these young men with the OnlyFans while also giving them advice, because he sees himself as just like he exists within this system. He diagnoses the problem and is like, well, all you can do is be a symptom.
Yeah, and that's like, let's be clear. Tate today pretends that like he has morals, and okay, maybe I believe that he has some principles. Okay, principles are a bit different than morals, but whatever. I believe he has principles. Okay, but let's be clear. When he didn't have what he wanted, he was more than willing to sacrifice or do whatever to his principles. Like again, when I talk about the predator mindset, I'm talking about someone. Okay, let's put it in a. You'll laugh, but like let's put it in a Nietzschean concept. So like the power. Let's go.
All right.
The fucking philosopher Nietzsche. It's what he called this predator mindset was basically the will to power, which basically means how willing are you to just take what you want and not deal with the blowback and not give a fuck, right? Like, and so he'll say if you are somebody who judges other people for taking what is rightfully theirs, because if you have the power, then it's rightfully yours. If you are someone who judges people for that, then you have slave morality. Okay, Nietzsche would fucking like dog on Christianity because he would say that Christians have slave morality because instead of basically taking power for themselves, Christians will look at people with power and they'll be like, you're evil, you're going to hell. You know what I mean? They'll judge them and they'll get like a sick satisfaction from it. That was his claim. But like, if we're talking will to power, Tate is a manifestation of the will to power to an incredible extent. This guy, think about it. This guy's story, what amazed me was that he was actually kind of being honest. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much poverty he experienced as a kid, but what does seem true is that his dad was a dickhead. His dad hit him. His dad was like very flighty. His dad left them at a young age. They probably did go through some hardship. They did join boxing gyms or kickboxing gyms. They did, or at least Tate did become, I believe, the #1 official, kickboxer in the world for a time. And that is indicative of someone who has a massive will. And on top of that, Tate gets to the top of this goal. His goal was to become the best kickboxer. And then he realizes, fuck, I've mastered the domain of physical power, which again is like the base level. It's like the lowest level of power. Because
but I still don't have money. I still don't have any.
Exactly.
Anything.
Once again, this is the big thing you need to understand about fighters. When you are fighting, when you are choosing violence, you are trying to regain power. You don't have it when you're fighting, right? So like someone who really has power does not need to fight. That's real. And so,
well, this is like Sean Strickland talks about the reason he fights is basically because of trauma, right?
Yeah, I mean, it probably gives him a sense of like, power, right? It
gives you a sense of like just control over your situation.
Yeah, like that, and that is a real thing, bro. Like, let's be clear: people who had fucked up lives, a big part of why they like fighting is because it's simple. You really, it's just a physical domain, right? And in this context, they are powerful. Do you get it? But like when we're talking about real power, this is why when Tate talks about the Matrix, he is talking about people with real power. Okay, that is what it is. So like Tate understands levels of power, and he understands that he is actually a exception to the rule. He's a glitch. It's true. He's a glitch in the Matrix because he came from kind of nothing, and he actually made, money and whatever, got success, got famous, all this shit. And so he maxed out all the power that he kind of could, but he realized that there's a cap, and that cap does come with institutions. Okay, institutional power is unmatchable. It's so difficult. Well,
because he got fucking arrested, right? You can't escape that unless you're fucking, I don't know, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. And exactly. Institutional power is extremely real. And the reason that guys like Tate dog on it so much is because he will never have institutional power. Does that make sense? Probably. He's trying kind of maybe, but like realistically, he probably won't. And so and again, keep in mind, he tried to have institutional power. Big part of why he moved to Romania, he literally says this, was because
it's corrupt. He thought he could get,
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were onto him. There was like a little bit of heat in fucking England. And so he moved to Romania, right? And where he thought he would be able to kind of infiltrate and get a little bit more power. But what's Tate's problem? Tate, he's so used to getting what he wants that he got so uncareful that what he ended up wanting was influence. Okay, so he's a guy he just wants what he wants. So how do you get influence? Well, you say outrageous shit, obviously, right? Like, what the fuck?
Today, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like,
because it's the attention economy. You just need people to look.
Yes, and so Tate got to this point where he was so honest, but also exaggerating, but also kind of honest, where it's like he's like actually saying, in his videos, where it's like, yeah, of course I bribe Romania, and a part of it is that he wants to come off like he's smart. But again, he is smart, but only in the games of power, right? He forgets about being examined. If you're examined, right, that's when institutions start to pay attention. Because if you're examined, that implies that you're kind of influencing other people, right? This is the thing. There's a difference between being an influencer and having actual power. Tate wasn't an influencer, but he was building up his power level. But then when he became an influencer, he entered like a whole other league of power games, right? Like he didn't understand, oh, fuck, I created a course about how to pimp out women. God damn it. If he could, he would lie like a fucking easily as hell about how he got his money. He doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? It is all about, and again, Willie Mack exposes this extremely well. Like even while he's in prison, like Tate, again, smart, understands power, but not that smart, like strategically. He's in prison talking to people.
He tried to bribe like a senator.
Exactly.
Prison, yeah.
Exactly. And he also was saying like, we got to keep this girl silent, all this shit. He was doing, again, he was trying to impose his power on these people from jail, but he was forgetting institutional power. Fuck, they tapped the phone lines. I can't compete with
that just seems like so retarded that he wouldn't even consider that. Because he's not like an unintelligent person,
You're correct. You're 100% correct. But that's why he refers to it as like the Matrix. It's like this ambiguous term. And what is the Matrix? It's just like basically the institution.
Anything he can't stop.
Exactly.
From closing in on him. Yeah.
Anything he can't get power over. Okay. And so, yes, the reason that
Joe
I think
Biden.
Tate is so facts. The reason that Tate is kind of interesting is because he is a true predator, like in the sense that he is playing the power game in a very real way. Okay. And so now that he has maxed out on influence, he's kind of trying his best to like use that influence to kind of leverage his power a little bit. It's not really working because again, when you're dealing with institutions, influence doesn't do fucking anything. We kind of know this, you know what I mean? Influence is kind of fake power in a way, because again, you can get people to do things, but you can only like kind of lean shit your way when it comes to it. Like an institution's like a fucking brick wall. You know what I mean? Like, and if like influence is basically having like wind power to like direct a fucking sailboat, like the sailboat's still gonna fucking hit the brick wall.
Yeah. Well, the problem with these institutions is they're so big, they're so complicated, they're so regimented. Yeah. There's so many members of it that like one person cannot tear it down.
Yeah, it's literally
it's like
castle.
It's like the problem people have with like the gun lobby and trying to dismantle it. It's like the problem isn't necessarily even the idea that like people can lobby for gun rights and stuff, because if you actually look like comparably, gun companies lobbying and shit like this and like these super PACs or whatever does not contribute that much money, right? It doesn't contribute that much money to the American political system compared to other issues. Like pharmaceutical companies are way larger. The actual thing to point out here is people just like guns and they want to own them. There's more guns than people in the United States, and you cannot stop. You know, just the basis. And this isn't even like a literal institution that's like fucking like brick and mortar. This is just the people's will and their fucking wants to have the right to own these guns.
And you know what's funny? Sorry, but go on. Keep.
I basically finished my point. I'm having a hard time explaining, but I think I've made some coherent point. Maybe 2 hours of myopic yapping. Can we get some callers? Yeah, maybe after this we'll take a few.
Yeah, you're good. I won't make it much longer, but like you were absolutely onto something. When you bring up guns, that's a fascinating example. And it's like, yes, there are people who absolutely like enjoy having guns. It's like a fun thing. And it is, let's be very clear, like America's foundation is on revolution. Okay. It's on domination. Does that make sense? Like that.
Well, it's actually on being dominated and like coming out of it. No.
But let's be real. Like, okay, so the foundation of America was taking the land. First of all, that was the first thing. But yes, then you're correct that the following thing was realizing, oh fuck, the British are taking advantage of us. Like the upper classes of America, which was like George Washington, Thomas Edison, these guys, they understood like fuck, they're taxing us, but they don't provide any benefit. What the fuck? So they basically did this successful revolution. So like the foundation of America was kind of on like fighting for, you know, the right to basically do what you want. It makes you instantly powerful. Okay. And like, I'm not putting this in like a way where it's like I'm pro or anti-gun, but it is a very real thing that if you're an individual who owns guns, if shit goes the worst it possibly can, you technically have more power than, you know, somebody who doesn't have guns, right? So the gun lobby is interesting because a big part, and this is kind of facts, but like a big part of the people who want to get rid of guns, and again, it makes total sense. They do want a more safe environment. They do want less like, you know, chaotic activity. That makes sense. But it also is kind of an understanding of like guns can act as leverage against the institutions, right? Like the big thing was Americans took up arms against the institution.
Well, that's the reason people don't want to give it up, is because the possibility that the government could infringe on some right that like you would need to take up arms to defend that.
So like guns are fun. Like people do think they're fun, and like I'm gonna find out hopefully eventually, but like we'll see. The thing is though, what people need to understand is that like people also understand like it is a safety type of like power thing that people perceive. They're like, dude, if they start taking away my guns, like they can do anything.
What the fuck else are they gonna take away?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, guns are an interesting thing because I view it as like nukes, right? Like, why haven't we? I mean, this is just a blanket statement, but like, what stops us from invading Russia?
Well, okay. Well, the nuke question. The reason we have nukes is because other people do, and it's already open, and that's the problem with guns. We need guns because the cops also have them, and if only the cops have them, who's to say that they won't seriously fuck our life up? You know.
And the state wants the cops to have a monopoly on violence. Like I said, like if you fight a cop, you die. Like that's what the state would ideally want. You know what I mean? Because they're
that is what happens.
Yeah, it is what happens, exactly. But so like, you know, that's why the gun battle is so difficult, because it really truly is a situation where people like, again, the gun lobby, but like a lot of people really, and of course there is a business around it. Like this is a real thing too. Like the people make money on it, but individuals, they understand like without a gun I'm less powerful, you know what I mean? Anyway, okay, fuck, I don't know if that was too much yapping, but
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. By the way, for people asking for callers, this is better than any fucking caller I've ever had. 50% of callers 50% of callers are I didn't expect to be pulled in here, and the other fucking 50% are, can you help me with my YouTube channel? So shut the fuck up. Up.
They literally have a guy bleeding out and fucking spitting pseudo-psychology, whatever the fuck they think it is, and they're like bitching, bro. Come on, what's going on?
Jesus Christ.
Get your fucking... It's because Tom, you should have been fucking playing Fortnite, bro. What the hell?
I was playing Fortnite the entire time.
Oh, my bad. Okay, you're good then. All right, fuck it. Anyway, thank you, chat. God bless. I'm sure, realistically, even especially people watching the VOD, because like a lot of the chat probably tuned in like halfway through this. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation. That was fun.
Jesus says, I like this convo. # not all chatters. I fucking agree. All right, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah, true. Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Okay, so I'm trying to, bring it back. Okay, I'm trying to become powerful. at the very least, so that I can protect myself. And so one of the ways that I realized I need to gain power, I want to rely less on YouTube ads and YouTube because I've gotten strikes. Like I have a strike on my channel for content I've made. And so the way that I do that is by diversifying through gokamerch.com. So I have this fucking hoodie that I sell. And I'm trying to like build this as like a real company. Because
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna shout out your fucking YouTube channel, asshole.
Bro, okay, is this fucked up? Okay.
No. I'm just kidding. It's good. It's good. Gokamerch.com.
Okay, but yes.
Check it out. Buy the Bad Faith line.
Dude, fuck yeah, thank you. Gay. But my bad. You're right.
Pussy.
Okay. But if you enjoyed this conversation, you should definitely watch.
Buy his merch if you hate trans people.
No. Okay, but watch the Sneako video, and if you want to understand, like, this is like me expounding on my schizophrenic thoughts, but the Sneako video is like really refined version of that. Does that make sense? So like, yes, thank you. The channel's Gokanaru, and yeah, God bless Tom. Thank you, bro.
No worries. Thanks for coming on, bro. Yeah, it was. Thank you, and yeah, have a good night. Take it easy.
Likewise.
Are you live? When are you? What the fuck?
Wait, what was that?
When are you live next?
Oh, Friday night. My bad. Yeah,
okay.
I guess.
What time?
You guys can join my Discord, I guess. But yeah, 9:30 every Friday. I go live. So 9:30 p.m.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks, bro.
We will be there. We will be there. Take it easy.